Chapter 1263. Kneel. Seeing Li Yu's dumbfounded look, Eternal Gold Ancestor felt even more proud and felt that victory was within his grasp. Pointing his finger at Li Yu, Patriarch Eternal Gold bellowed, "Kneel. Swear by your totem spirit that you will submit to this old man and obey all my orders. This old man will spare your life. Otherwise, only death awaits you." You really managed to find the Golden Bell tribe? You're really something. Li Yu's expression was unreadable, and he was having a hard time trying to hold back his laughter. Turning his head to look at the girl beside Patriarch Eternal Gold, Li Yu shook his head again. Speaking of which, since she is the current patriarch of the Golden Bell tribe and the only strong pillar of my tribe, why would she expel me from the tribe? Will she listen to you? She has to listen. Eternal Gold Ancestor proudly raised his head. This old man has already sworn by my totem spirit that as long as she listens to me, this old man will let all the tribesmen of the Golden Bell tribe go and ensure that they can reproduce. Otherwise, her brother, her family, and all her tribesmen will die. I have no choice. The girl looked at Li Yu with teary eyes and slowly lowered her head. These years, my tribesmen have been wandering everywhere, living a hard life, and many have died. Many people starved to death. With tears rolling down her face, the girl lowered her head and sobbed, not daring to raise her head and look at Li Yu. Did you hear that? Eternal Gold Ancestor glanced at Li Yu and sneered. As long as you swear by your totem spirit that you will submit to this old man, you will still be the Golden Bell Old Demon, and you will still have incomparable power. The Golden Bell tribe will also grow stronger. This is the best choice for everyone. The best choice? Li Yu smiled, looked at the girl chief of the Golden Bell tribe, and asked, "What is your name?" Startled by Li Yu's sudden question, the girl timidly raised her head. Junior, Zhong Xiao greets Senior. Zhong Xiao? Li Yu nodded. I have a better choice here. This choice could cost you your life. However, I will kill old monster Jin Hung and save the lives of the Golden Bell tribe. I will let the Golden Bell tribe take over the Golden Roar tribe. Are you willing? What? Hearing this, Eternal Gold Patriarch shouted in anger. Don't listen to his nonsense. He couldn't save the people of the Golden Bell tribe. If I don't show up personally, anyone who enters the dungeon will be killed by the guards inside. Leave the clan. In the name of the Patriarch, in the name of the Golden Bell Totem Spirit, expel him from the clan. Otherwise, all of you will die. Eternal Gold Ancestor grabbed the young girl, Zhong Xiao, and roared with a ferocious face. How interesting. Li Yu smiled and shook his head. I really don't know what you're thinking. Why are you so sure that you can control her? How can you be so sure that she will listen to you? Of course, that's not important. Li Yu smiled and waved his hand. He looked at Eternal Gold Ancestor. The most important thing is, how can you be sure that I won't kill her before she expels me? This time, Eternal Gold Ancestor was dumbfounded. Kill the Patriarch? Kill the Patriarch favored by the totem spirit? This was like a believer killing the Pope. This was simply unheard of. Anyone who dared to kill the Patriarch would be cursed by the totem spirit. The totem power in his body would disappear completely, and not even a little bit would be left. I understand now. At this moment, the young girl who was weeping with her head lowered suddenly raised her head and looked at Li Yu. Her face was filled with determination. Senior, you can definitely save our clansmen, right? I am really not suitable to be the Patriarch. I don't have great strength, nor do I have the courage to be decisive in the face of danger. So, even if I die, you can still lead the people to glory. A dagger appeared in the young girl's hand. She gritted her teeth and stabbed her chest. No, Eternal Gold was so frightened that he let out a scream. He hurriedly tried to stop the suicidal young girl. This was the only way he could keep Old Demon Goldclock in check. If this young girl died, the last shackles on Old Demon Goldclock's body would be gone. Who would be able to stop a berserk Old Demon Goldclock? Thus, Eternal Gold did his best to stop the young girl from killing herself. However, Li Yu was even faster. Clang! The sound of a bell rang out, shaking the heavens. A mighty sound wave swept through the world. Under this sound wave, everyone present fainted from the shock. I was just messing with you. Did you really think that I would be threatened by you? Using a hostage to threaten me? You're way too old-fashioned. Liu reached out and grabbed the unconscious patriarch Evergold. In Jining's world, this humble Taoist discovered an extremely interesting soul-enslaving technique. To prevent you from messing around and disturbing my experiments, I'll make you my slave. But of course, a figure like Eternal Gold wasn't even qualified to be Liu's slave. Still, giving him to a little girl like Zhong Qiao as a slave was quite fitting. You were willing to give up your own life and have the courage to kill yourself. You're already very decisive. Consider this a reward for you. Waving his hand, he sent a soul-enslaving technique into Eternal Gold's soul. Waving his hand, he sent a soul seal into Zhong Qiao's forehead. And so, Eternal Gold had officially become Zhong Qiao's slave. Waving his finger, he flicked the Yuan bell. With a clear clang, Zhong Qiao and Eternal Gold woke up. Senior, Zhong Qiao looked at Liu, then realized that she was still alive. Her mind was in a daze, and she didn't understand what was going on at all. Young miss, you woke up. Your old servant, Eternal Gold, pays his respects to you, young miss. But then, Zhong Qiao saw something that made her even more confused. Eternal Gold, this terrifying old monster, was actually respectfully prostrating himself in front of Zhong Qiao, acting like a servant. This is, blinking her eyes, Zhong Qiao felt as if she was in a dream. Everything in front of her had become unbelievable. This is a test. Liu looked at Zhong Qiao and nodded with a smile. Golden Roar Tribe's strength is not worth mentioning in my eyes. I can destroy it easily. I'm very gratified by your choice. So, standing up, Liu pointed at Eternal Gold, then pointed at the entire Golden Roar Tribe's encampment. So this is your reward. Patriarch Eternal Gold is a slave I gave you. The entire Golden Roar Tribe is a reward I gave you. Everything here is yours. Zhong Qiao was stunned, and it took her a long time to come back to her senses. No wonder Senior said, there is a better choice. No wonder Senior said, enter the Golden Roar Tribe. Everything Eternal Gold did was just a joke in Senior's eyes. This is a test. Fortunately, I passed the test. For myself, and for the Golden Roar Tribe, I ushered in a glorious future. Go, take Jin Hung to see your clansmen. Go, and take over your territory. Great Elder, you should be talking about our clansmen, our territory. Zhong Ling smiled sweetly, bowed, and gave Liu the title of Golden Roar Tribe's Great Elder. Liu laughed involuntarily. Chapter 1264. The situation in the Golden Roar Tribe had stabilized. Patriarch Eternal Gold was still the tribe leader. However, Zhong Qiao had become the overlord. As long as it doesn't affect Ai's experiments, you can do whatever you want. Liu ignored Zhong Qiao and Patriarch Eternal Gold. He stayed in the Dragoner court and focused on studying the secret Dragoner arts. Grand Dragoner, these are the mutated beast bloodlines sent by the other Dragoners. Jinju took out a storage pouch and presented it to Liu. Liu nodded and reached out to take the storage pouch. Then he instructed Jinju, I still need more blood samples. Inform Jin Hung and have him arrange for people to collect them from everywhere. Yes. Jinju bowed to accept the order and left. After the previous incident, everyone knew that the Golden Roar Tribe was under the control of the Golden Roar Tribe. Naturally, no one dared to disobey Liu's orders. I hope these blood samples can help me study something. Liu took the blood samples from the storage pouch and walked into a quiet room in the Dragoner court. He began to analyze them one by one. Just like the medicinal properties of herbs, I will cultivate mutated beasts according to the method of alchemy. I will use the method of wood refinement that I created. Liu's path was not the traditional secret Dragoner arts. He did not use elixirs to stimulate the mutated beast's bloodlines and make them evolve. What he wanted to do was to combine the characteristics of the mutated beast's bloodlines and create them as he pleased. This was the path of creation. According to the theory of the Earth era, the characteristics of the bloodlines can be called genes. The characteristics of all living things are contained in the genetic information. As long as I can identify these characteristics and understand the principles behind them, I will be able to create all kinds of living things. Liu calmed down and took out the blood samples one by one. He analyzed them one by one. The analysis function of the system repository was a very useful tool at this time. After taking out a blood sample, the system scanned it and analyzed all the characteristics of the bloodline. It was completely and clearly displayed in front of Liu. The system's method of analyzing substances is also worth learning. The system's functions were very useful, but it was even more useful to turn the system's functions into his own skills. There was a way to identify pills when refining pills. Now that he was creating mutated beasts, he also needed a way to identify the bloodline characteristics of mutated beasts. System, send me a copy of the method of scanning and identifying the characteristics of materials and analyzing the characteristics of materials. With his cultivation sealed, Liu definitely wouldn't be able to use this method. However, with his own sealed cultivation, he could easily undo it. Sealing one's cultivation was for the sake of experiencing a cultivation experience. When the time came, it would naturally be easy to undo. An indescribable aura flickered and instantly converged into one, no longer leaking out. After unlocking the seal on himself, Liu began to receive the method of identifying and analyzing matter from the system. There's no way at all. Liu was dumbfounded when he saw the so-called method to identify and analyze matter from the system. There was no way at all. The system was like a huge, boundless database. As long as he compared the scanned material with the data in the database, he would naturally know the result. All right, you're amazing. Everything that had been seen, never seen, known, unknown, existing, non-existing, all of these substances had a set of data stored in the system. Liu could only worship such a powerful database. This was the reason why the system could create all kinds of things. As long as it had the energy, it could retrieve a set of information from the database and directly use the energy to make a copy. Such a vast and unimaginable amount of data. Even with my cultivation realm after unsealing, I still can't accept it. It was as if all the material information in the universe had been stored in the database. Even with Liu's chaotic and disorderly realm, he could not accept it all. I'm afraid only after becoming chaotic can I store all the material information in the universe into the memory of the soul. Liu shook his head and could only retreat helplessly. Without the system's database, the system's ability to identify materials is only left with scanning. With Liu's soul power after unsealing, scanning could achieve the same effect as the system's scanning with just a thought. So, before I become chaotic, I can forget about building a complete material database. Shaking his head with a smile, Liu put his mind on analyzing the blood samples of the exotic beasts. He could not build a complete material database, but he had already memorized the medicinal properties of the plants and the information of the exotic beast bloodlines. As long as he kept accumulating, one day, he would be able to build a material database similar to the system. This is the information of the golden armored beast's bloodline. Here is the gene for growing tough armor. Here is the body shape. And here is the innate ability. The bloodline characteristics of the golden lion and the flaming tiger are only slightly different. As he finished analyzing the bloodlines of the exotic beasts, Liu grasped more and more characteristics of the exotic beast bloodlines and accumulated more and more. This is the bloodline characteristic of the sword spider? Interesting. After analyzing a blood sample of the sword spider, Liu looked at the information of the bloodline and suddenly remembered a movie called Spider-Man in the Earth era. With my current understanding of the bloodline characteristics, creating a Spider-Man is simply a matter of minutes. Unfortunately, in this world, Spider-Man was an object that could be casually trampled to death and had no research value. If Spider-Man was not enough, then Wolverine, saber-toothed tiger, Magneto, laser eyes. All right, Liu is starting to let his imagination run wild again. First, thoroughly research the bloodline characteristics of the exotic beasts. Wait until when the divine technique is completed, who knows, maybe I can really create a group of mutants. Thinking of Magneto leading a group of mutants to fight against the cultivators of the mountain and sea realm, Liu suddenly had a bad taste in his mouth, and his interest in research increased. Why is it limited to mutants? Power and glory, blood and thunder, beastmen will never be slaves. Under my wings, all things turn to ashes. I was imprisoned for 10,000 years. Forget it. Forget it. I can't think about it anymore. I'm thinking too much. This world is going to be ruined. The Burning Legion and Warcraft have already been played many times. If I let them appear again, won't I be scolded? Shaking his head, Liu cleared his head of these messy thoughts and continued to research his exotic beast genetic database. Not enough. Not enough blood samples. Continue collecting for me. Hurry. Immersed in his research, the old demon Golden Bell was full of demonic energy. He ordered the countless members of the Golden Roar tribe to collect blood samples from all kinds of beasts. Fortunately, the old demon Golden Bell did not limit the strength of the exotic beasts. In fact, as long as there was blood, it could be completed. Thus, some lazy members of the Golden Roar tribe even collected a lot of human blood samples. Then, Liu discovered he was getting closer and closer to the path of the biochemical demon. Chapter 1265. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. Liu was so engrossed in his research that he lost track of time. Until Zhong Xiao came to Liu with a bitter face. Grand Elder, I've collected all the blood samples from living creatures within 100,000 miles. If you still want more blood samples, we'll have to fight. The territory of the Golden Roar clan and the territory of the Blood Axe clan, which was occupied by the Golden Roar clan, added up to 100,000 miles wide territory. For the past 3 years, the entire Golden Roar tribe had been collecting blood samples from all over the place to satisfy old Demon Golden Bell's research needs. They had been busy for 3 years. Until now, if they didn't enter the territories of other tribes, they wouldn't be able to collect blood from living creatures. In a place like the Western Desert, unless invited, entering another tribe's territory was tantamount to declaring war. Fighting a tribal war just to collect blood, wasn't this too unreasonable? Is that so? Liu raised his head from his black cloak and glanced at Zhong Xiao. He nodded. The blood samples are enough for now. Let's stop. Thank you, Grand Elder. Zhong Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. For the past 3 years, in order to collect blood samples for Liu, he had suffered unspeakably. You've done a good deed by collecting blood samples for me. I'll give you a reward. Liu took out a jade talisman and threw it to Zhong Xiao. Take this talisman and go find Jinzhi. She'll take you to choose a strange beast. Strange beast? A strange beast bred by the Grand Elder? Zhong Xiao was overjoyed. She hurriedly bowed to express her gratitude and happily walked out of the Dragoner court. With old Demon Golden Bell's methods, the strange beast he bred would definitely be extraordinary. 3 years of painstaking effort in arranging blood samples for her clansmen had finally paid off. Zhong Xiao hurriedly walked out of the Dragoner court and found Jean Zhe. Sister Zhe, the Grand Elder asked me to find you to collect a strange beast. Zhong Xiao took out the jade talisman and told Jean Zhe the reason for her visit. In the Golden Roar tribe, Zhong Xiao's words carried enormous weight. However, in the Dragoner court, she couldn't put on any airs. Zhong Xiao knew full well that everything she had came from Golden Bell. Even when facing a maid like Jean Zhe, she still kept a low profile. The Grand Dragoner gave you a strange beast? It seems like Sister Qiao, or has won the favor of the Grand Dragoner. A trace of envy flashed through Jean Zhe's eyes. She got up and walked towards the side chamber. Sister Qiao, please follow me. Zhe, what kind of exotic beast has Grand Elder nurtured all these years? Following Jean Zhe to the side chamber, Zhong Xiao asked Jean Zhe curiously. The Grand Dragoner has been studying the blood samples for the past few years, so he hasn't cultivated any beasts on a large scale. Only 10 golden-armored beasts were bred. Jean Jouer replied with a smile. There was one more thing that Jean Jouer didn't say. These 10 golden-armored beasts were taken from the silver wonder dragoners. Apart from these 10 strange beasts, the Grand Dragoner had not even started to cultivate strange beasts. The beast pen is just ahead. After passing through the side hall, Ginger took out a command talisman and opened a thick stone door. An open and flat area appeared before the two of them. On this flat area, there were 10 golden-armored beasts lying on the ground, lazily basking in the sun. Those are the golden-armored beasts bred by the Grand Dragoner. Seeing the 10 golden-armored beasts lying on the ground, Zhong Xiao was greatly disappointed. These 10 golden-armored beasts looked much smaller than ordinary golden-armored beasts. Ordinary golden-armored beasts were 10 zhang long, but these golden-armored beasts were only 10 zhang long. Not only were they much smaller, but these golden-armored beasts were also much fatter than ordinary golden-armored beasts. Each one of them was chubby, charmingly naive, and looked very cute. But these were war beasts. They weren't pets. What was the use of being cute? Were they going to feed the enemy if they were chubby? Sister Zhu, have Grand Elder's strange beasts been tested in actual combat? Zhong Xiao always felt that with old Demon Golden Bell's methods, he wouldn't have created some pets that were only good to look at, but not useful. Right? Actual combat? No. Jean Jouer answered without hesitation, without the slightest hint of falsehood. They weren't tested in actual combat in the first place. I'm not lying. As for the Grand Dragoner's strange words like first transformation and second transformation, I don't even know what they mean, so there's no need to tell you. Moreover, Jean Jouer didn't have a good impression of Zhong Xiao, this vixen. She had bewitched Patriarch Eternal Gold and made him accept her as his daughter. Zhong Xiao didn't have a good reputation in the Golden Roar tribe. Now, this vixen even dared to bewitch the Grand Dragoner. She was really too hateful. They weren't tested in actual combat. Zhong Xiao was somewhat surprised and frowned slightly. Out of her confidence in old Demon Golden Bell, Zhong Xiao felt that these charmingly naive pets weren't that simple. Forget it. Even if they can't be used in battle, at least they can be used as mounts. Pretty. The charmingly naive golden-armored beasts were covered in shiny golden armor. They looked fat, but their lines were smooth. They were indeed pretty. Zhong Xiao smiled and took out a jade talisman. She walked over to the golden-armored beasts lying on the ground and basking in the sun. Since I'm here, I can't let down the Grand Elder's good intentions. Naturally, I have to choose one. Zhong Xiao walked up to the golden-armored beasts and looked around. She couldn't tell which one was better, so she could only choose one at random. She activated the jade talisman. A beam of light shot out and landed on the golden-armored beast. It had a pair of spiral horns on its head and golden patterns on its golden armor. Roar, roar. The light landed on the golden-armored beast's head. The golden-armored beast growled a few times and got up from the ground. It lazily walked to Zhong Xiao's side and lay down, as if it wanted Zhong Xiao to sit on its back. It's really a mount? Zhong Xiao was greatly disappointed by the golden-armored beast's actions. From the looks of it, the first elder had only given her a better-looking mount. I've already chosen my mount. Little Sister Zhur, I'll take my leave now. She sat on the golden-armored beast and saw clouds of light rising from the golden-armored beast's claws. The golden-armored beast stepped on the auspicious clouds and soared into the sky. She actually chose this stepping cloud beast. She's lucky. Jean Zhu glared at Zhong Xiao, who was stepping on the clouds in the sky. She then turned her head to look at the other 9 golden-armored beasts on the ground. Humph! Fortunately, I didn't let her choose the strongest ones. Walking on the clouds, surrounded by auspicious clouds, colorful and gorgeous. It's really beautiful. Sitting on the stepping cloud beast, Zhong Xiao was speechless when she saw this scene. It seems that these golden-armored beasts were made by the Grand Elder as mounts. Which? Give me your life. When Zhong Xiao rode the stepping cloud beast across the Golden Lake and headed to the Golden Roar tribe's main city, she suddenly heard a loud shout. 4 masked figures in black rushed out from behind the cliff. They released their magic treasures and flying swords and fiercely chopped at Zhong Xiao. Chapter 1266. Suddenly attacked. Zhong Xiao screamed and was at a loss of what to do. Zhong Xiao's strength was too low. 3 years ago, she was only at the qi condensation stage. Even now, 3 years later, she was only at the foundation establishment stage. Zhong Xiao had lived like a princess for 3 years and was served by Patriarch Eternal Gold like an ancestor. Well, had she ever seen a fight? How had she ever experienced a battle? Facing this sudden attack, she could not react at all. Which, you bewitched Patriarch Eternal Gold and made my Golden Roar tribe suffer. Complaints are everywhere. Today, we will clean up the Emperor's subordinates and kill the evildoer. The magic treasure broke through the air, the wind howled, and the momentum was strong. The 4 cultivators who attacked Zhong Xiao were all at the nascent soul stage. 4 nascent soul stage cultivators joining hands to attack a foundation establishment stage cultivator. Victory was assured. Regarding this which Zhong Xiao, some of the Golden Roar tribe's more knowledgeable cultivators naturally wanted to tear her into pieces. Liu gave Patriarch Eternal Gold to Zhong Xiao as a slave. As a slave, Patriarch Eternal Gold listened to Zhong Xiao's every word. At first, the knowledgeable cultivators of the Golden Roar tribe thought that Zhong Xiao was just a new pet of Patriarch Eternal Gold and did not care too much. After a long time, they also realized the problem. No matter how unreasonable Zhong Xiao's requests were, Patriarch Eternal Gold would listen to her. Because of this, some of the Golden Roar tribe's members were very dissatisfied with Zhong Xiao and wanted to get rid of her. Killing this, which in cleaning up the Emperor's subordinates, allowed Patriarch Eternal Gold to regain his brilliance and lead the Golden Roar tribe to glory again. These righteous cultivators finally had this opportunity. When Zhong Xiao left the Dragoner court and had yet to return to the main city, this empty area was perfect for an ambush. Which you're dead. Today, no one could save you. Zhong Xiao was only a foundation establishment stage cultivator. Under the attack of 4 nascent soul stage cultivators, she would die without a trace. As for Zhong Xiao's beautiful mount, the 4 nascent soul stage cultivators did not care about it. Auspicious clouds swirled and multicolored light shone. This beautiful and flashy mount must have been bought by this, which to bewitch Patriarch Eternal Gold and make him pay a huge price for her. In the great land of the Western Desert, in some of the big tribes, those nobles were very particular about enjoying life. This kind of extremely flashy mount was one of the luxuries that the nobles loved. Apart from looking good, there was nothing good about this mount. Help. Facing the attacks of 4 nascent soul cultivators, Zhong Xiao had no power to resist. Other than calling for help, there was nothing she could do. Am I going to die? The situation of the Golden Bell Division had just improved. With the protection of the Grand Elder and the control of the Golden Roar tribe, the future of the Golden Bell tribe would be bright. Was such a beautiful life going to end just like that? Zhong Xiao's eyes were filled with longing, as well as a strong sense of unwillingness. Even if I die, with the Grand Elder around, the Golden Bell tribe can still rise again. She turned her head to look in the direction of the Golden Lake and the Dragoner court on the island in the middle of the lake. A faint smile appeared on Zhong Xiao's face. She no longer panicked or feared. Great Elder, the future of the Golden Bell tribe depends on you. Roar. Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar rang out, interrupting Zhong Xiao's wild thoughts. When she came back to her senses, Zhong Xiao's face was once again filled with shock. She could only see the surging auspicious clouds in the surroundings surging wildly. The dazzling multicolored light became even more dazzling. The auspicious clouds and multicolored light gathered in an instant, transforming into a brilliant light screen that firmly protected Zhong Xiao. Boom! The attacks of the 4 nascent soul cultivators smashed into the light screen formed by the auspicious light, creating a loud explosion. However, they were unable to harm Zhong Xiao at all. What is this situation? A sure kill attack, an attack that was filled with confidence, had actually returned without any results. The four nascent soul cultivators were indescribably shocked, completely unable to make sense of the situation. The loud roar reminded them that the light screen was released by the mount. However, who had ever seen such an extravagant mount that could actually release a defensive divine ability? This was simply unheard of. Roar. At this time, the stepping cloud beast roared angrily again. Resplendent golden light erupted, and the entire stepping cloud beast underwent a huge transformation. The 3-meter-long stepping cloud beast body suddenly expanded, transforming into a gigantic beast that was over 300 meters long. Huge fangs grew out, sharp claws grew out, and the huge horns on the top of its head were like 2 huge spears. Sharp spikes sprouted from the joints of its bones. The entire stepping cloud beast had become ferocious and terrifying, its demonic aura overflowing to the heavens. The chubby and charmingly naive stepping cloud beast had now become ferocious. Where was the slightest bit of its adorable appearance? Roar! With a wild roar, the ferocious stepping cloud beast soared into the sky and ferociously charged towards the 4 nascent soul cultivators in front of it. What kind of strange beast is this? Seeing this scene, the 4 nascent soul cultivators' faces were filled with shock. Since when did such a luxurious mount become so terrifying? Which grand dragoner of which large tribe was this? How could he be so bored? How could he nurture such a strange and terrifying mount? Even though they were shocked, the 4 nascent soul cultivators did not panic. The strength of a strange beast was related to the strength of its master. It could not be too much stronger than its master, or else it would not be able to control it. Zhongxiao was only at the foundation establishment stage. No matter how ferocious and powerful this strange beast was, having the strength of a nascent soul stage was already the limit. It was not even at the nascent soul stage. It was only at the gene dance stage. With the 4 nascent soul cultivators working together, even if there was a nascent soul stage strange beast, they could easily kill it. However, boom, crack, thunder roared, lightning flashed. The 2 spiral horns on the stepping cloud beast's head suddenly exploded with endless lightning. Bolts of lightning blasted out like snakes, continuously attacking the 4 nascent soul cultivators. Thunder technique? This strange beast can actually use a thunder technique? Strange beasts' attacks mostly relied on their sharp fangs and claws to engage in melee combat. Strange beasts that could use divine techniques were simply too rare. The 4 nascent soul cultivators turned pale with fright and hurriedly released their defensive Dharma treasures to block the falling lightning. Clang! The sound of a sword rang out. Under the horrified gazes of the 4 nascent soul cultivators, the stepping cloud beast suddenly swung its front claws. Its 5 sharp claws were like 5 sharp swords. With a sweep of its claws, 5 incomparably sharp sword chi burst out. What the hell is this? The horns on its head could release lightning, and its claws could release sword chi. Could it be any more terrifying? What about the spikes on its body? What were their functions? Could it be that it could release flying swords? Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of the 4 nascent soul cultivators, the spikes on the stepping cloud beast body suddenly, actually shot up into the sky, whistling as they spiraled. Thousands of spikes turned into thousands of flying swords, forming a huge sword formation that swept towards the 4 nascent soul cultivators. It can really release flying swords? And it's a sword formation? What the hell is this? How is this a strange beast? This was clearly a monster. If you're so vicious, why don't you go to heaven? Thunder roared from the horns. The sharp claws and sword chi were everywhere, and the spikes spiraled. In an instant, the 4 nascent soul cultivators were in a mess as they complained incessantly. 4 nascent soul cultivators were beaten to the point where they could not fight back by a strange beast that was not above the nascent soul realm. There was no way out for them. Not bad. The initial test subject is still somewhat useful. When Liu saw this scene, he smiled and nodded. The golden armored beast that he had casually modified had already been tested in actual combat. It seemed like he had taken the right path. He could foresee that the war of monsters. Oh, the war of monsters was about to begin. Chapter 1267. The golden armored beast has already been tested. Liu smiled and nodded. Since that's the case, the next step is to carry out extensive experiments. Liu did not interfere with Zhong Xiao's affairs. With the cloud-stepping beast protecting her, Zhong Xiao was naturally not in any danger. With such a big commotion, Patriarch Eternal Gold would immediately rush over. Naturally, Liu did not have to worry about her. I remember when I was playing the game, there was a cut scene that I still remember. Liu turned and walked into the Dragona Hall. He sat cross-legged at the table and knocked on the table with a smile. The orcs will never be slaves. A mouthful of evil demon's blood changed an entire race. Through this period of bloodline research, Liu had a complete understanding of the game scene back then. The evil demon's blood had changed the orc race. In fact, it was the influence of the evil demon's bloodline that caused the orc's genes to mutate. What I'm doing now is somewhat similar to the evil demon Monos. With a wave of his hand, streaks of light lingered on his fingertips. These streaks of light were the bloodline characteristics of various exotic beasts that Liu had analyzed, or in other words, gene fragments. What is the path of creation? This is the path of creation. The streaks of light intertwined and merged in Liu's hand until it turned into a drop of blood. It was sparkling and translucent, like a flawless ruby. A drop of evil demons. Oh, divine blood gave birth to a race. Liu reached out and held the drop of blood as if he was completing a sacred ceremony. The Creator bestowed a drop of divine origin blood. Thus, the ancestor was born. All right, time to be funny is over. After putting away the drop of origin blood, Liu stepped out of the Dragoner Court and walked toward a cliff on the Spirit Beast Island outside the Dragoner Court. A black curtain hung high in the sky, and a full moon hung high in the sky. Under the bright moonlight, a pack of wolves stood on the cliff and howled at the moon. The mournful howls startled a group of bats in a karst cave on the cliff. They squeaked and flapped their wings, scurrying around. The darling of darkness, born from the moonlight. A drop of origin blood fell from the sky, and the Blood Clan and the Wolf Clan were officially born. With a flick of his finger, the drop of origin blood in his hand tore through the air. Bang! It exploded and turned into a layer of faint blood mist, shrouding the wolves on the top of the cliff and the bats flying around the cliff. A woo! When the blood mist entered Xiao Chen's body, the group of wolves on the cliff gave off a bright light. The moonlight gathered together and poured into the bodies of the wolves like pillars of light. Ka-ka! Their joints cracked and their muscles swelled. One by one, the ash wolves stood up, their muscles and bones squirming and growing. In the blink of an eye, the pack of wolves turned into werewolves. They had the head of a wolf and the body of a human. They stood upright, and their bodies were covered with thick silver fur. Each of them had a berserk aura, and they were bloodthirsty and savage. On the other side, the bats were also undergoing tremendous changes. The blood mist fused into their bodies, and under the illumination of the moonlight, every bat's body expanded, turning into a vampire with a humanoid body, a bat head, and a pair of bat wings. Not bad. The initial form has been completed. Liu nodded with a smile. When their strength continues to grow and their human genes continue to be activated, they will eventually turn into humans and have two forms at the same time. At that time, they can also be considered as vampires and werewolves. As for how vampires, werewolves, and humans would get along with each other, and whether there would be a war between vampires and werewolves that would last for countless years, Liu expressed that they could do as they pleased. As long as there are no problems with their genes after a period of time, it means that this experiment is a success. In a world of immortal cultivators, creating vampires and werewolves, the biggest trouble would be, I have never seen such a monster before. Evildoers, where are you running to? Of course, if vampires and werewolves eventually grew to be as intelligent as humans and learned how to cultivate, that would be another problem. Just focus on digging a hole and not burying it. What trouble will there be in the future? That guy Meng Hao, isn't he going to become a demon lord in the future? He must have a way to deal with it. Without any hesitation, Li Yu threw the burden to Meng Hao and continued his experiment with a clear conscience. Under my wings, all living things turn to ashes. So, Nazario, it's time for you to come into being. He walked towards the beach of Spirit Beast Island, where a group of lizards lived. Originally, these were all strange beasts raised by the Golden Roar tribe. After falling into Li Yu's hands, the fate of this group of lizards was shadow and raging flames, blood and soul. Black Dragon Legion, come out. Another ray of spiritual light lingered on his fingertip and turned into a drop of dark red blood. With a wave of his hand, the drop of blood landed on the heads of the group of lizards. With a bang, it exploded, and a layer of blood mist enveloped the group of lizards. Raging flames surged, and the ground by the beach turned into lava. In this lava, a young dragon that was more than 10 meters long, covered in black scales, with 2 dragon wings on its back and fiery nostrils, appeared. Forget about the other 5 color dragons, especially the bronze dragon's talent with the power of time. It's too unbalanced. It wasn't like he was going to recreate the 5 color dragon legion. Everything was just an experiment, so there was no need to take it seriously. Turning around and leaving the lava lake, Li Yu walked to a grassland on Spirit Beast Island. A group of golden lions lived here. Since the Black Dragon Legion has appeared, then I must have griffins too. Another ray of bloody light rushed out and turned into a layer of blood mist that enveloped the group of lions. Roar. After a series of wild roars, the group of lions turned into griffins with eagle heads, eagle wings, and lion bodies. Streaks of lightning flashed on the griffins. Li Yu had also used the Hammer of Tempest's special ability on the griffins. With 4 species as samples, it should be enough. This was only the preliminary test results. With so many samples, it was enough. As for the next step, when the test is over, I can start the human experiment. Old Demon Golden Clock, who was walking further and further on the path of the biochemical demon, was already preparing for his evil human experiment. Mutated humans are the best experimental targets. To test the path of creation, he had to test the bloodline characteristics, or, in other words, genes. Through genetic changes, different characteristics would be born. What was more suitable than mutated humans? All kinds of mutated humans, with all kinds of talents, were born because of genetic changes. Didn't this meet the requirements of Li Yu's experiment? I hope the people of the Golden Roar tribe won't reject the identity of mutated humans too much in the future. Li Yu's face was full of smiles. Without hesitation, he made the people of the Golden Roar tribe the next batch of test subjects. Chapter 1268. Roar. Raging flames soared into the sky as a group of black dragons spread their wings and occasionally spat out flames from their nostrils. Screech. A group of griffins spread their wings and flew high into the sky. Lightning crackled all over their bodies. Awoo. A group of humanoid wolf-headed creatures that walked upright were crazily hunting the antelopes. While the werewolves were eating, a group of humanoid bat-like creatures lay on the antelopes' corpses and drank their blood. The 2 races seemed to be getting along very well. The next morning, the Dragoners on Spirit Beast Island were greatly frightened by these strange creatures. What are these things? Black dragons, griffins, vampires, and werewolves were creatures that the Dragoners had never seen before. For a moment, everyone looked at each other in dismay. These should be strange beasts bred by the Grand Dragoners, right? It's just that they've mutated so strangely that I can't even tell what kind of strange beast they are. Spirit Beast Island had already become the territory of the old Devil Golden Bell. There was only one possibility for strange beasts to appear here, and that was that the old Devil Golden Bell had created them. As expected of a Grand Dragoner, this kind of method of breeding strange beasts is truly unheard of. It's truly amazing. Everyone now had a clearer understanding of the old Devil Golden Bell's terror. The Grand Dragoner has given the order. At this moment, Jinju walked out of the Dragoner Hall and shouted at the crowd. With a loud crash, the group of Dragoners hastily stood up straight and respectfully awaited the Grand Dragoner's orders. These strange beasts were all personally bred by the Grand Dragon. Jinju pointed at the black dragons and griffins soaring in the sky and said to the crowd, "The Grand Dragoner bred 4 strange beasts. You must take good care of these 4 strange beasts. If you discover any problems, you must immediately report to the Grand Dragoner." Yes, breeding strange beasts and taking care of them was the duty of the Dragoners. Naturally, no one had any objections. This jade slip contains the characteristics of these 4 strange beasts. Take it and carefully study it. Ginger took out a jade slip and handed it to a Dragoner in front of her. This person used a blank jade slip to make a copy, and then handed the jade slip to the next person. A short while later, everyone made a copy of the characteristics of the 4 exotic beasts. Griffin? Not only can he ride it, but he can also cast the lightning divine ability of the Hammer of Windstorm. Those winged lizards are called black dragons. Although it was still far from being a dragon, its divine ability was very impressive. He was born with the ability to control fire and can even use Inchi. Strange. Inchi and fire control divine ability. One yin and one yang. How could they coexist as one? The methods of a Grand Dragoner are simply unimaginable. These wolf-shaped monsters are called werewolves. That bat beast was called a vampire. The name is weird, but the innate divine ability is pretty good. Yes, their HP recovery ability is very strong. As long as they're not burned to ashes or smashed in a flying ash, these creatures can recover very quickly. They are very suitable as hand-to-hand combat beasts. Dragoners didn't really care about vampires and werewolves. They felt that these 2 creatures were far inferior to the black dragons and griffins. They were just cannon fodder for hand-to-hand combat. At most, their recovery ability was a bit stronger. However, the vampires and werewolves were the products that Liu was most satisfied with. The griffins and black dragons looked intimidating, but they actually didn't have much potential for growth. Liu didn't make a real dragon. These black dragons were, at best, just slightly stronger exotic beasts. However, Liu made the vampires and werewolves as 2 different species of humans. As for whether they could reach Liu's goal, it was hard to say. The Grand Dragoner's method of raising exotic beasts is really too powerful. After reading the information in the jade slip, the Dragoners were all amazed and willingly submitted. If they looked after these exotic beasts and observed their growth, they might even be able to comprehend the Grand Dragoner's method of raising exotic beasts. The Dragoners were all in high spirits, their enthusiasm surging. My art of creation isn't an ordinary Dragoner's secret art. If you can comprehend anything from it, then you'll be damned. Liu shook his head and looked at the griffins and black dragons whistling through the sky. A trace of a smile appeared on his face. At present, it seems that the genes of these exotic beasts are still quite stable. There aren't any problems. My path of creation can be considered to have completed the first step. Just like refining pills, he could extract the bloodline characteristics of all kinds of creatures and then combine them to create a new kind of creature. This was already the power of the Creator. All things in the world, all living things, all matter and energy, all living things and creatures can be born according to the path of creation. This is the origin of matter. This is the origin of everything. From the Tao of pills and plants to the Dragoner arts, Liu had already grasped the method of changing the properties of plants and animals. He understood the principles of creation. Xianhuang Qi, the origin of all things, the origin of matter. All matter and life originated from Xianhuang Qi. At this moment, Liu had finally comprehended his Xianhuang Qi and the path of creation to the most fundamental level. As expected, if I don't create things, if I don't become the creator, how can I truly comprehend the origin of matter? Now that he had comprehended the great Tao, all that was left was the accumulation of the creation database. The system had already recorded an endless amount of material data. As long as Li Yu became chaos, this data would be stored in his heart, and he wouldn't have to spend a lot of time and effort to collect it himself. This material data, where did the system collect it from? Li Yu suddenly remembered that when he had obtained the system, it was still a blank board with nothing. It wasn't until he had entered the shrouded heavens world and borrowed the power of the small immortal world that he was able to scour the shrouded heavens world's information. This gave Li Yu the foundation to start. But now in the system, where did the all-encompassing and endless data come from? All the systems sold by the user, all the stores established by the user automatically scanned and collected the material data of each world. The system quickly gave him an answer. So that's how it is. No wonder I was asked to sell the system everywhere. No wonder in the end, when the system host couldn't be of any use, I was asked to sell the system everywhere. So that's the reason. At this moment, Li Yu finally understood the reason why he was a grandpa everywhere and gave away cheat codes everywhere. Everything was for the sake of these material data, but why did the system want the data of these creations? So that after I become chaos, I can have all the creation data of all the worlds in the universe and have the creation model of all living things? This thing, what does it mean to me? After I become chaos, I can create whatever I want. Why would I need to refer to other people's models and samples? Is there a reason that I still don't know about? For a moment, Li Yu couldn't figure it out. Forget it. I'll find out sooner or later anyway. Li Yu shook his head and didn't care about this problem anymore. Chapter 1269. All that's left to do is wait. Having created the 4 races, Li Yu's initial experiment was complete. Now, all he needed to do was observe and see if there were any problems with the races he created. If there were no problems with their genes, then the experiment could be considered a success. For now, there are no problems with the experiments on the 10 golden armored beasts. If there are no problems with the genetic modification of the 4 races, then I can begin the human experiments. Li Yu made some mental calculations. As long as there were no problems with the experiments on the 4 races, as well as the human experiments, then the verification of the Tao of good fortune would be complete. Li Yu had personally verified the Tao of good fortune and was now in complete control of the essence of matter. The planning is complete. As long as the verification is complete, it will prove that my method is correct. Then I will truly be in control of the essence of matter. Then I can safely go and prove primordial chaos. He would make up for his foundation, and then use the 3rd blade of spirit severing to sever his body and transform it into primordial chaos. That would be the first step in achieving primordial chaos. Now, all that's left is to wait. Having finished all this work, Li Yu suddenly realized that he had a lot of free time. I'll have to wait for the 4 races to grow up a bit before I can verify if there are any problems with my method. For now, there's nothing for me to do. Now that there was nothing for the Golden Roar tribe to do, Li Yu couldn't sit still any longer. That Kid Meng Hao is still tossing and turning in the Black Lands as Patriarch Golden Light. He's still wreaking havoc on the common people. I don't have anything fun to do. Li Yu shook his head gloomily. Whatever. I'll take advantage of this time to increase the level of my cultivation base. Actually, the enlightenment of his cultivation base was almost complete. Having made up for a few of his shortcomings, Li Yu's cultivation base only had spirit severing enlightenment left and a 3rd blade of spirit severing. Then I'll hurry up and reach the nascent soul stage. Then I'll look for the opportunity to reach spirit severing. All the preparations were complete. All that was left was the 3rd blade of spirit severing. As far as Li Yu was concerned, increasing his cultivation base was a piece of cake. Core breakthrough to the nascent soul stage. This is the traditional way of forming a nascent soul. In fact, the nascent soul, in the traditional sense of cultivation, was the fusion of the 3 treasures of essence, qi, and spirit. It was the shedding of the mortal body and achieving longevity. In this world, the nascent soul realm was not the end. It was just a stage on the path of cultivation. The 3 treasures of essence, energy, and spirit combined into one. A lifetime of Tao fruit was formed and a lifetime of comprehension was gathered. A nascent soul Tao fruit was formed. Back in the day, when I was in the mortal world, I also walked the path of matter. With the 5 elements as my foundation, I once formed my nascent soul. Li let out a long sigh. He had already understood. Qi cultivation begins with the 5 elements and ends with all living things. This is my path. Fortune lies within a single palm. Liu laughed heartily as the aura of his entire body surged. The Jin Dan that he had formed since he entered the world to cultivate suddenly exploded, turning into a mass of dense cloud light. Clouds surged and swirled about. The enlightenment of the Tao of plants and vegetation, as well as the enlightenment of the Dragoner's secret arts regarding the creation of strange beasts, gathered together. Spiritual light appeared, and the nascent soul was born. Forming the nascent soul was not difficult for Liu at all. It could be done with a single thought. However, the process was not something that could be ignored. The enlightenment of this world, the experience of this world, was congealed into the nascent soul. This was the key to Liu's path to spirit severing. Only through this enlightenment, step by step, could he comprehend the 3rd blade of spirit severing. Only then could he use this method to sever his own body and transform it into primal chaos. The 3rd blade of spirit severing is not a blade of the Tao of the heavens, nor is it a blade of natural law. It is a blade formed from one's own enlightenment. Different people have different levels of enlightenment, and therefore, the 3 blades will be different. It was for this reason, and because of the special nature of the 3rd blade of spirit severing, that Liu was given the opportunity to sever his own body and achieve primal chaos. After all, considering Liu's current realm, other than the 3rd blade of spirit severing, which was formed from his own enlightenment, what else could possibly sever his own body? Only Liu himself could attack himself. Any other external power, primal chaos and disorder. Any power with the characteristics of order would be completely useless. There's nothing I can do about it. The higher the realm, the more difficult it is to break through. The special nature of this world's 3rd blade of spirit severing is the most suitable method I can think of. In order to transform his body into primal chaos, the first step would be to eliminate the existence of the body. Considering Liu's realm, other than himself, what else could possibly harm his body? What else could possibly eliminate the existence of his body? The 3rd blade of spirit severing was the only hope he could think of. The road ahead will be even more difficult. Sever the body and transform it into primal chaos. But how do I sever my Qi condensation cultivation base? Most importantly, how do I sever my cultivation base? Qi condensation cultivation base was one thing. He could always think of a way. But what about his cultivation base? Even if he could sever his cultivation base, he wouldn't dare to do so. If he severed his consciousness, would he still be Liu? I'll just have to take it one step at a time. This was a path that had never existed in ancient times. He could only take one step at a time, ponder over it, and advance bit by bit. He had formed his nascent soul, and his cultivation base had advanced quietly and peacefully into the nascent soul stage. Thanks to his understanding of the Tao of plants and vegetation, as well as his secret Dragoner techniques, his Tao of matter had reached the pinnacle, and he now understood the principles of good fortune. Naturally, entering the nascent soul stage was not difficult. What a pity! The 3rd blade of spirit severing has no clue. As far as Liu was concerned, there was no difference between the early, mid, or late nascent soul stages. Ascension within the same realm was nothing more than the accumulation of power, which could be accomplished with a single thought. However, the 3rd blade of spirit severing was like a heavenly chasm. No one could help him in this juncture, nor could he learn from it. He could only rely on his own enlightenment. How do I sever my own body? Liu's path of cultivation had always been that of the orthodox Tao of cultivation, combining the 3 treasures of essence, energy, and spirit, refining essence into energy. This essence referred to the bloodline, and the quintessential energy referred to the body. Back in the day, he had a weak body that didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. Later, he had a pre-celestial Tao embryo. Later, he had fused with the ancestral dragon body. All of these things were a part of Liu himself. All of these things combined to form the current Liu. Without the pre-celestial Tao embryo, I would still be a weak servant of the Kangwu Academy. I wouldn't even have the chance to rise to prominence. As for the ancestral dragon body, it was merely the icing on the cake. It wasn't that important. How do I sever my own body? I'm not afraid of severing the ancestral dragon body. Even if I sever my original body, I'm not afraid. However, if I sever the pre-celestial Tao embryo, all of my cultivation foundations will collapse. Starting from the inscription scripture, Liu had reached his current level. Without the pre-celestial Tao embryo and the inscription scripture, Liu's cultivation foundations would collapse. Spirit severing requires me to sever my own body. I must sever the ancestral dragon bloodline, sever the pre-celestial Tao embryo, and sever my original body. What should I do? This was yet another obstacle. Chapter 1270. Severing one's body was the first step to achieving primal chaos. Liu's body was transformed into primal chaos, becoming the source of all matter and energy, order, and magical laws. This was not only an increase in cultivation, but also a sublimation of the essence of life, an evolution of life form. This was the path that Liu had forged himself. Achieving primal chaos meant becoming the source of all the heavens and realms, space-time, matter and energy, order and magical laws. Judging from the current situation, the third blade of spirit severing won't be so easy to sever. Liu finished his cultivation and stepped out of the Dragoner court. I've been in the Golden Roar tribe for a few years now. It's about time I went out for a walk. Enlightenment regarding spirit severing was not something that could be solved by secluded meditation in the Dragoner court. Liu turned and walked toward the side chamber. He planned to bring along the first batch of golden-armored beasts he had created. As the Grand Dragoner of the Golden Roar tribe, it was only natural for him to bring some strange beasts with him. With a clang, Liu opened the side chamber's door and walked into the golden-armored beast stables. Roar! Roar! Seeing Liu enter, the 9 golden-armored beasts climbed to their feet and surrounded him. All right, let's go out for a walk, He waved his hand, and one of the golden-armored beasts suddenly grew in size, transforming into a winged golden flying rain dragon. Liu stepped onto the flying rain dragon's back, then waved his hand to collect the other golden-armored beasts. Patting the flying rain dragon, he said, "Let's go." It spread its wings, and a wild wind howled. The enormous golden flying rain dragon rose up into the air, soaring into the clouds and shooting off into the distance. These golden-armored beasts were Liu's first batch of experimental subjects. This was his first experiment, so he was naturally a bit conservative. He didn't let his imagination run wild. The modified golden-armored beasts were based on creatures that already existed in the world of all heaven. They weren't too innovative. The reason I came out this time is to find a method of spirit severing. The Tao of spirit severing was the key to whether or not Liu could sever his own body and achieve primal chaos. It was a question that couldn't be taken too seriously. Liu looked toward the south and then focused on the border between the Black Lands and the Western Desert. There is a frigid snow clan on the border of the Black Lands. They were originally part of the ancient Agarwu tribe of the Western Desert. Looking south in the direction of the Black Lands, Liu smiled and nodded. In the Frigid Snow Clan, there is a legacy talisman that contains the spirit-severing insights left behind by generations of Grand Dragoners. Everyone's understanding of spirit-severing was different and could not be copied. However, the legacy talismans of the Frigid Snow Clan, which contained the enlightenment of generations of spirit-severing experts, could be used as a reference. At the moment, Meng House still hasn't acquired the legacy seal of the Frigid Snow tribe. I just want to join the fun. Sitting on the back of the winged dragon, Liu flew across thousands of mountains and rivers to the snowy tribe's encampment. He was ready to join in the fun. The rain drakes were modified with the characteristics of rain dragons, and their flying speed was extremely fast. 3 days later, Liu traversed the vast expanse of the Black Lands to reach the outpost of the Frigid Snow clan. Up ahead was a vast expanse of ice and snow. In the Black Lands, where everything was black, it was very eye-catching. Off in the distance, in the middle of this world of ice and snow, was an enormous city of ice. This was the Frigid Snow clan's encampment, Holy Snow City. However, at the moment, Holy Snow City was not calm. Outside of the city was a vast expanse of ice and snow, surrounded by tens of thousands of cultivators. There were Blacklands Palace cultivators in black robes, as well as Western Desert cultivators whose bodies were covered with totemic magical symbols. Dozens of enormous flood dragons circled about in the air, roaring. More than 100 enormous blue lions roared. There were also tens of thousands of enormous black wolves, blood-colored tigers, and all sorts of other strange beasts. They surrounded the city, roaring. So they're fighting. Seeing this, Liu knew that the Blacklands Palace and the great tribes of the Western Desert had joined forces to unify the Blacklands. They were preparing to wipe out any resistance, and were preparing to migrate. Roar! It was at this moment that a wild roar suddenly exploded out from the north side of Holy Snow City. The wind screamed, and demonic chi shot up into the sky. An enormous illusory winged dragon appeared in midair. Its wings spread out as it lifted its head up and roared. What a coincidence! Looking at the illusory winged dragon, Liu smiled and shook his head. The illusory winged dragon appeared, and its demonic chi shot up into the sky. Other than Meng Hao, who else could it be? Ha ha! It's time for old Devil Golden Bell to make his appearance. Putting away the winged dragon, Liu leaped into the air and circled around to the north side of Holy Snow City. Sure enough, he saw him there. A yellow wind sprang up from the top of his head, and an enormous illusory winged dragon appeared in midair. Its demonic chi shot up into the sky, and it was incomparably powerful. Next to him was a white-robed young woman, who appeared to be a member of the Frigid Snow clan. Meng Hao was protecting the young woman from the Frigid Snow clan as they fought their way through the encirclement and into Holy Snow City. Under the awe of the illusory winged dragon, the flood dragons circling about in midair began to tremble and flee. The black wolves and blood tigers pounced madly on the ground, but as soon as they reached him, they were corroded by an invisible toxic gas. One by one, they transformed into black smoke and vanished into thin air. Grand Dragoner! Grand Dragoner! When the Western Desert cultivators saw the illusory winged dragon above his head, as well as the hordes of strange beasts, they cried out in fear and began to back up. Up until now, Meng Hao had been in the limelight. You little bastard. Wherever you go, you want to show off. You've stolen all the limelight. Don't you think I've lost a lot of face? Liu chuckled. He placed the golden bell on top of his head, then began to stride toward Holy Snow City. He acted as if there was no one around him, and he had no misgivings about the tens of thousands of cultivators surrounding the city. He simply barged his way through in a domineering fashion. Make way, make way, make way. The words were familiar to the cultivators, and yet they were terrified. They floated out into the world of ice and snow outside the city. Even the sound of fierce fighting could not drown out the words, make way, make way. You think you're the Golden Bell. Old Devil Golden Bell is here. The Blacklands Palace cultivators loathedly use make way. They were about to explode in rage when they suddenly turned their heads and saw a familiar figure. They let out a shriek. Old Devil Golden Bell was infamous for his savagery. He was a taboo in the Blacklands. Last time, because he had made way, the tolling of the bell had caused hundreds of thousands of cultivators to be sent flying. Even some of the spirit-severing patriarchs had been affected. This time, Old Devil Golden Bell was making way again. Who would dare to provoke him? Stop! Stop! The leader of the Blacklands Palace was none other than Patriarch Whitebones. When he saw the familiar figure of Old Devil Golden Bell, he began to tremble in fear. Make way! Make way! Open up a path for Senior Golden Bell. Patriarch Whitebones roared. ordering the cultivators surrounding Holy Snow City to make way. In the blink of an eye, a wide road led directly to Holy Snow City. Senior Golden Bell, please. After you. Patriarch White Bones didn't want to be knocked unconscious again. He didn't want to spend an entire day and night sleeping in the world of ice and snow. He had no choice but to respectfully escort the god of plague, old Devil Golden Bell, away. So it really is you. When Meng Hao saw what was happening, he was speechless for a long time. Other than Brother Li, who else could be so infamous? Old Demon Golden Bell is much more famous than my Golden Light ancestor. As for the Frigid Snow clan members in Holy Snow City, they were all scared senseless. Old Devil Golden Bell was someone they couldn't afford to provoke. Last time, Old Devil Golden Bell had passed by, and then Holy Snow City had been destroyed. Will my Holy Snow City be able to escape this time? Chapter 1271. So you're here, Junior Brother Golden Light. Liu strode forward leisurely, waving his hand in greeting as he waved at Meng Hao, who was up ahead of him. What? That guy is Old Devil Golden Bell's junior brother? We're finished. We're finished. Last time, all we did was block Old Devil Golden Bell's path, and he killed hundreds of thousands of people. This time, we've offended Old Devil Golden Bell's junior brother. Isn't that even worse? The cultivators surrounding Holy Snow City were all pale, and cold sweat broke out all over their bodies. So, it's Elder Brother Golden Bell. Forgive me for not coming out to meet you. Please forgive me. Meng Hao had worked with Liu countless times and knew exactly what was going on. Without hesitation, he began to work with Liu. I say, what's so interesting about a crappy place like the Blacklands? What are you doing here? Hurry up and come back to the Western Desert with me. If you don't, your 3,000 concubines won't be able to bear the loneliness and will run off with someone else. As he walked, Liu gave Meng Hao the title of 3,000 concubines. Meng Hao staggered, and the corners of his mouth twitched. As for the young woman from the Frigid Snow clan, she was so scared that she began to tremble. She jumped away from Meng Hao, worried that if he looked at her, she would get pregnant. Oh, I remember now. Liu walked over to Meng Hao, looking as if he had just realized something. My junior brother's cultivation has reached a critical juncture. He needs a frigid snow larva to advance his cultivation base. With that, Liu turned to look at the young woman from the Frigid Snow clan. He grinned. My junior brother needs a frigid snow larva. I'm sure your Frigid Snow clan will gladly give it to him, right? Yes. Yes. The young woman was trembling all over. She had been scared out of her wits by these two terrifying wild devils. How could she dare to say no? Old Devil Golden Bell was terrifying, but this young cultivator was also a peerless seductress. He had 3,000 concubines. How terrifying. This little girl, Hanchu Ashan, greets the two seniors. In order to return to the city smoothly, she still needed to borrow the power of these two devils. Even if Hanchu Ashan wished she could stay far away from these two devils, she could only helplessly accept the reality. With the demonic Tao running rampant, us righteous Tao people can only feign civility and leave behind useful bodies for the future. I'm enduring humiliation for the greater good. It's definitely not because I'm afraid of death. Absolutely not. After completing her mental preparation, Hanchu Ashan's expression became slightly more relaxed. My Frigid Snow clan is deeply honored to have two seniors here. Seniors, please. She bowed, then led Liu and Meng Hao through the battle formation outside the city and into Holy Snow City. The city gate opened, and a group of high-level figures of Holy Snow City respectfully came to the gate, bowing to welcome the arrival of the two old devils. As for the surrounding cultivators, they didn't dare to move. They could only watch as Liu and Meng Hao were welcomed into Holy Snow City by the Frigid Snow clan members. Patriarch White Bones, what should we do? Seeing that old Devil Gold Clock wasn't enraged by the fact that his junior brother Gold Light had been besieged, they all felt relieved. This caused many people to inwardly sigh in relief. But Now that Old Devil Gold Clock and Old Devil Gold Light had entered Holy Snow City, there was no way to fight this battle. To attack Old Devil Gold Clock's base, wasn't that just courting death? Well, Patriarch Whitebone's face was full of helplessness. Based on what happened last time, Old Devil Gold Clock won't interfere in our battle. Let's wait for now. Once they leave, we'll attack. And so, because of Old Devil Gold Clock's arrival, the great battle came to a halt. Greetings, Senior Gold Clock. Greetings, Senior Gold Light. In the main hall of Holy Snow City, a group of high-level Frigid Snow clan members respectfully bowed to Li Yu and Meng Hao. Thanks to Li Yu, Meng Hao had also become Senior Gold Light. When he saw a group of nascent soul cultivators bowing to a mere early core formation cultivator and calling him Senior, he felt both helpless and amused. Seniors, you've graced us with your presence. How may I be of service? The leader of the Frigid Snow clan was an old woman. This old woman with a head full of white hair bowed respectfully to Li Yu as she asked carefully. Everyone in the Black Lands knew the name of Old Devil Gold Clock. The more the rumors spread, the more incredible they became. Supposedly, he had knocked out hundreds of thousands of people with a single blow. Not even spirit-severing patriarchs could escape. Old Frigid Snow didn't quite believe that Old Devil Gold Clock could knock out hundreds of thousands of cultivators with a single blow. But seeing the terrified expressions on the faces of the Black Lands Palace cultivators, she knew that this Old Devil Gold Clock was a monstrously terrifying monster. Holy Snow City was in a precarious situation. Naturally, she couldn't afford to offend an old devil like this. Oh, it's nothing important. Li Yu sat down at a table in the middle of the main hall. He picked up a jug of the Frigid Snow clan's specialty wine, Frigid Snow Brew. He took a sip, then nodded approvingly. Not bad. This wine has some flavor. Senior, if you like it, I'll immediately offer you 100 jugs of Frigid Snow Brew. Please accept it. If a bit of wine was enough to send the old devil away, that would be the best outcome. However, Old Frigid Snow knew that since the old devil had come, he wouldn't be so easily dismissed. There's no need for that, said Meng Hao, waving his hand. Actually, I don't drink much wine. Li Yu waved his hand dismissively, then looked at Old Frigid Snow. To tell you the truth, my junior brother, Patriarch Golden Light, has reached a bottleneck in his cultivation. He needs a Frigid Snow larva to break through. I've come to ask for a Frigid Snow larva. Well, an awkward expression appeared on Old Frigid Snow's face. Senior, please allow me to report this. The Frigid Snow clan only has 2 unhatched eggs left. Furthermore, it takes a Frigid Snow clan nascent soul cultivator a year to hatch each Frigid Snow larva. She looked up at Li Yu. Seeing that there was no anger on Li Yu's face, Old Frigid Snow let out a sigh of relief. Senior, she said, the Frigid Snow clan is currently besieged by enemies. We really can't spare anyone to hatch the Frigid Snow larva. Haha, what's so difficult about that? All it takes is a single word. Li Yu laughed carelessly. If you want a year to hatch the Frigid Snow larva, then tell the Black Lands Palace cultivators outside that I've spoken. They're not allowed to attack for a year. With that, Li Yu flicked his finger, causing a golden glow to land in Han Xueshan's hand. Go, tell the cultivators outside that they're not allowed to attack Holy Snow City for a year. This. Han Xueshan turned to look at Old Frigid Snow, not quite sure what to do. Since it's the senior's orders, said Meng Hao. Old Frigid Snow didn't quite believe Li Yu's words. It didn't matter how famous Old Devil Golden Bell was. At most, it was just that they didn't want to clash with him. The Blacklands Palace and the great tribes of the Western Desert had joined forces and were incredibly powerful. Experts were as numerous as the clouds, and they even had quite a few spirit-severing experts. How could they possibly allow someone like you to ride roughshod over them? And yet, moments later, the entire Holy Snow City was in an uproar, and a boiling cauldron of voices could be heard. Next, Han Xueshan walked in, her face blank, as if she'd been scared witless. She couldn't stop muttering to herself. They really retreated. They really retreated. Shauna, what's going on? Old Frigid Snow hurriedly asked. Great-grandmother, They really retreated. Han Xueshan's face was covered with shock. What? The Blacklands Palace and the great tribes of the Western Desert retreated? The leaders of the Frigid Snow clan exchanged dismayed glances. Old Devil Goldenbell was actually so powerful? Retreating with a single word? Wasn't that too terrifying? Chapter 1272. Now, do you have time to hatch the Frigid Snow silkworms? Putting down the wine cup, Liu looked at Frigid Snow Crone with a faint smile. This king has already shown his sincerity. Shouldn't you also show your sincerity? Senior, don't worry. We will definitely deliver the Frigid Snow silkworm as scheduled. Old woman Han Shui respectfully bowed. With old Devil Goldenbell's power and influence, a single word from him was enough to cause the menacing Blacklands Palace and the other great Western Desert tribes to back down and retreat. Such a terrifying figure was not someone the Frigid Snow clan could afford to offend. Seniors, please wait for a moment in Holy Snow City. We will definitely do our best to hatch the Frigid Snow silkworms. We will definitely not disappoint you. With that, Frigid Snow personally led the way for Li Yu and Ming out to a beautiful and elegant courtyard. She sent Han Xueshan and a group of servants to attend to the two old devils. Brother Li's reputation is awe-inspiring. This little brother admires you. Now that there were no outsiders, Meng Hao didn't have to pretend to be an old devil anymore. I didn't think that Brother Li's fame would become even more terrifying after a few years. Speaking of which, how many people have you tricked during this period of time? Out of habit, Meng Hao believed that Li Yu's terrifying reputation as Devil Goldenbell had come about because he had conned people. Not that many times, just a few 100,000 people at a time. Back then, when they passed by Saturn City, in order not to destroy the balance, Li Did directly knocked out everyone on both sides and restored the situation to its original state. Not many times, just a few 100,000 people at a time. You are ruthless. Meng Hao could only express his admiration for the magnificent feat of tricking hundreds of thousands of people at once. Compared to Li Yu, Patriarch Golden Light, the scourge of the Blacklands, was far too outdated. All right, you want the Frigid Snow silkworm for the tribulation? His perfect Jean Dan and perfect nascent soul would both face heavenly tribulation. If he couldn't find a place like the Blood Immortal Legacy site, then he would have to think of other ways to transcend his tribulation. The Frigid Snow silkworm could evolve into an eyeless silkworm after devouring the Jalawa Lay mulberry leaf. As long as the silk is not broken, the silkworm will not die. As long as the silkworm did not die, the thread would not break. This was a paradox, an infinite loop. Therefore, this kind of heavenly strange entity had the characteristic of eternal indestructibility. If he used it to transcend the tribulation, he would be safe from being struck by lightning. Yeah, Meng Hao nodded. If it weren't for the meat jelly and Lord Fifth helping me delay my heavenly tribulation, I wouldn't have been able to escape. After I form my Jean Dan and take the 7-colored pill, I'm afraid I'll be struck to death by the heavenly tribulation. Thinking back to the terrifying tribulation lightning, Meng Hao still felt a lingering fear. If the heavens and earth did not tolerate it, the heavens and earth would destroy it. There is simply no way to resist it. Brotherly, you also walked the path of perfection. How did you survive the heavenly tribulation? At this point, he couldn't help but laugh. That's right. Brotherly, you're a peerless expert. Of course you have your ways. That's not it. Liu smiled and shook his head. Although I'm on the path of a perfect foundation, Jean Dan and Nascent Soul are not perfect paths. Oh, Meng Hao was shocked. Brotherly, don't tell me you've given up on the perfect path? That can't be, right? Meng Hao was shocked to hear Li Yu's words. Considering Li Yu's experience, how could he possibly give up on the path of perfection? Instead of pursuing perfection, he would pursue the flawed Jean Dan and Nascent Soul. Perfection is not the end. Li Yu waved his hand, and a glow appeared on his fingertip. 6 different images of Jean Dan appeared. Out of the 6 golden cores, the first 3 had cracks, while the last 3 were intact. Shattered plate, flawed, flawless, perfect, Tao fruit, eternal. These are the 6 different realms that can be reached at each level of the path of cultivation. Liu pointed at the image of the 4th Jin Dan. This is the realm of perfection. However, perfection is not the end. There are 2 more realms. Above perfection is Tao fruit. Above Tao fruit is eternal. After pointing at the images of the 5th and 6th Jin Dan, Liu smiled and looked at Meng Hao. In the Violet Fate sect, I cultivated the Tao of alchemy and developed the wood refinement technique. After coming to the Western Desert, I studied dragoner techniques for raising strange beasts, which gave me even deeper enlightenment. Therefore, my Jin Dan and nascent soul are both in the Tao fruit realm. Enlightenment of the great Tao leads to Tao fruit. The Jin Dan and nascent soul of the Tao fruit realm are the embodiment of the great Tao. They are no longer intolerable by heaven and earth. As Liu spoke, he muttered to himself, "The Tao fruit of this world is not the same as the Tao fruit of the world of the Paragon." The names are the same, but the meanings are completely different. Above perfection are Tao fruit and eternal. Meng Hao's jaw dropped, and his face filled with shock. He had never heard of such a thing before. After a long moment, he asked, "Brother Li, if there's eternal, then what about eternal? Why don't you raise your Jin Dan and nascent soul to the eternal level?" "Haha, you're quite ambitious, aren't you?" Liu laughed. "First of all, the lower your cultivation base, the less powerful you are, the more troublesome it is to raise your cultivation base to the eternal level. It takes too much time. Second of all, once you prove eternal, you will always have eternal. It doesn't matter which stage you reach the eternal level. You're already in the eternal level. There's no need to cultivate to the eternal level at every stage. So that's how it is." Meng Hao nodded, then looked at Li Yu with shining eyes. "Brother Li, since you're bringing this up, does that mean I can also cultivate my Jin Dan to the Tao fruit realm? I can only give you hints about the Tao fruit Jin Dan. You have your own Tao, but your Tao fruit is different from mine." Li Yu waved his hand, dispersing the images of the 6 Jin Dan. Then he smiled at Meng Hao. "You're Grandmaster Pill Cauldron, so I'm sure you've thought about your own Tao of alchemy, right? Create your own Tao of alchemy and integrate your understanding of the Tao into your own cultivation. Then you can achieve your Tao fruit Jin Dan." "My Tao of alchemy." A tremor ran through Meng Hao's body as he suddenly understood. "So that's how it is. My pill, my Tao, my life, everything is in my heart, everything is in my hands. The body is the furnace, the heart is the cauldron. I can refine myself into immortal ascension, and I can refine all living things into pills. That pill is the heavens. That pill is the earth. That pill is the entire world. This pill is also my own body. The body is like a great furnace that can refine the sun, the moon, and the dome of heaven. The heart is like a great furnace that can refine the vicissitudes of time, refine the heavens, refine the earth, refine the man, refine the self." His thoughts became clear, and everything became clear. A rumbling sound could be heard as a raging flame erupted from within Meng Hao. It was an invisible, colorless flame. It cannot be seen, it cannot be touched. However, it was possible to feel its intense heat, as well as its unquenchable stubbornness. This was the East Pill, never extinguishes the fire. This was the Tao of alchemy passed down to Meng Hao by Grandmaster Pill Demon. The flame of faith. As the raging flame burned, Meng Hao merged his Tao of alchemy and his understanding of cultivation into a furnace. He was refining himself as a pill, refining the heavens, refining the earth, refining others, refining oneself. Within the invisible, colorless, raging flame, Meng Hao's body was filled with a sense of perfection. Heaven and earth were perfectly round, without any leaks or imperfections. A great Tao circulated. Boom! The air trembled, and a radiance like that of a moon rose up. It was as if a moon had risen from the depths of the blue sea. It hung high in the blue sky, illuminating heaven and earth. If my life is in my hands, then I can plant a golden lotus in the fire. Li nodded and smiled. He clasped hands and bowed to Meng Hao. Congratulations on attaining the Great Tao, Junior Brother Ming. Chapter 1273. He's still consolidating his Tao fruit, said Meng Hao. Jean Dan. Liu walked out of his room and into the frosty courtyard. He looked down at the ground. Is the frigid snow clan's spirit severing patriarch on the verge of death? Beneath Holy Snow City, at the bottom of an icy heavenly pit, was a pentagonal altar of ice. At the center of the altar sat a withered figure that looked like a skeleton. This was the frigid snow clan's spirit severing patriarch. Just like Patriarch Reliance, said Meng Hao. Patriarch Frigid Snow completed the first severing, but was stuck at the second severing. He can't cross the second severing, and is now in the midst of his tribulation of decay. Liu nodded his head. It's time to say hello to Patriarch Frigid Snow. His body flickered, and Liu silently floated out of the courtyard to the side of a dilapidated well in Holy Snow City. Using a dry well to conceal the entrance to the secluded meditation facilities is quite creative. He floated down to the bottom of the well, where a door of ice appeared in front of Liu. Tearing down a wall is too violent. I'd better be a bit more gentle. I'm here to discuss business, not to rob. He tapped the wall of ice with his finger and sent out some spiritual power, causing it to transform into a curtain of water. Liu passed through the curtain of water, then retracted his spiritual power, causing the curtain of water to transform back into a wall of ice. After passing through the wall of ice, he found himself in a bottomless cave of ice. Liu floated down to the bottom of the cave, where he stood in front of the pentagonal altar of ice. So, a fellow Taoist has graced me with your presence. He said, I'm ill, so please forgive me for not coming out to greet you. As soon as Liu appeared at the bottom of the cave, the desiccated figure on the altar of ice slowly opened its eyes. A frigid aura began to circulate around it. The fact that someone had intruded into Patriarch Frigid Snow's secluded meditation facilities caused him to feel extremely nervous. He secretly prepared himself to go all out. I came uninvited. Sorry to disturb your cultivation. Liu greeted him with a smile. His face was full of friendliness, as if he was greeting an old friend. He didn't feel like an intruder at all. What brings you here, fellow Taoist? Ancestor Frigid Snow couldn't relax at all. When he saw Liu's nonchalant attitude, he became even more nervous. Oh, it's nothing serious. Liu smiled and nodded. I heard that the Frigid Snow clan has a spirit-severing sigil, which contains the spirit-severing insights of generations of Frigid Snow clan ancestors. I would like to borrow it to take a look. I wonder if fellow Taoist Han Shui could help me? The eyes of the mummified ancestor Han Shui suddenly glowed with a cold light, and an ice-cold aura soared into the sky. Fellow Taoist, do you think that I'm easy to bully just because I'm in the midst of my blight tribulation? If you want to take the legacy talisman of the Frigid Snow clan, we'll have to see how capable you are. Patriarch Frigid Snow was infuriated by the fact that they were trying to steal his family's legacy. This kind of unreasonable approach was no different from borrowing your girlfriend. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. I'm here to do business, not to fight. Considering Liu's status, if he wanted to scam someone, they could only blame themselves for not being smart enough. If they wanted to jump into a trap, Liu wouldn't feel any pressure. But to actually try to steal, it was far too lacking in skill. It was completely out of character for Liu to scam people. Business. The cold light in Ancestor Han Shui's eyes faded a bit. Fellow Taoist, how do you want to do business? It would be best if they didn't have to fight. With Ancestor Frigid Snow's half-dead state, he didn't have the slightest bit of confidence to fight with Liu, who he couldn't see through at all. Fellow Taoist, you've been in secluded meditation for a long time. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the situation in the Frigid Snow clan. The Blacklands Palace and several great Western Desert tribes have joined forces to flatten the Blacklands. Holy Snow City is in imminent peril. With this, Liu laughed. I's intentions are quite sincere. First, I want the Blacklands Palace and the Western Desert cultivators to withdraw their troops. For a year, They're not allowed to invade Holy Snow City. That's why I'm here to discuss business with you. So your patriarch Goldenbell, whose name shakes the Black Lands. Although he was in secluded meditation, Ancestor Han Shui had heard reports from his clansmen that this old devil Goldenbell had appeared. In front of the old devil, he naturally couldn't directly address him as Old Devil Goldenbell. Instead, he changed it to a nicer-sounding Patriarch Goldenbell. "I's the most reasonable," said Liu. "Robbery is something that requires skill. I really can't do." Liu glanced at Ancestor Han Shui. "I have a calamity-surmounting pill. It can restore your life force and restore you to your prime. In exchange, I'll take a look at the Frigid Snow clan's legacy talisman. What do you say?" With that, Liu waved his hand, revealing a dark red pill brimming with vitality. This pill, sensing the boundless vitality contained within the pill, Ancestor Han Shui's withered face filled with shock. "In addition to my title of Golden Bell, I was also known as the Pill Pagoda in the Southern Domain. My pill concocting skills are passable." He waved the dark red pill in his hand, revealing the insignia of a 9-level Pill Pagoda. A Grandmaster of the Pill Pagoda. Ancestor Han Shui's entire body trembled, and he looked at Liu in astonishment. "You're a Grandmaster of the Pill Pagoda?" Even in the Black Lands, Ancestor Han Shui had heard of people who stood at the pinnacle of the Tao of Alchemy. In the midst of his blight tribulation, Ancestor Han Shui had once considered asking a Grandmaster of the Tao of Alchemy to save his life. However, a Grandmaster of the Tao of Alchemy wasn't someone just anyone could ask for help. Fellow Taoist, how could I possibly refuse such sincerity? To be able to escape from his half-dead state, and even have a chance to break through to the second severing, was something he couldn't even dream of. Naturally, Ancestor Han Shui couldn't refuse. "Here's the pill. Please take a look, fellow Taoist." Liu generously handed the pill over to Ancestor Han Shui. "Excellent pill. Excellent pill." Ancestor Han Shui accepted the pill. It didn't emit any medicinal strength, and its aura was restrained. However, it still contained a vast life force. As a spirit-severing expert, Ancestor Han Shui naturally knew what it was. This was a consummate divine pill. Furthermore, it was a consummate divine pill filled with life force. "Since you're so generous, fellow Taoist, I can't be stingy. This is the legacy talisman of the Frigid Snow clan. Please take a look, fellow Taoist." Ancestor Han Shui felt that this transaction was extremely worthwhile. Without hesitation, he took out the legacy talisman and handed it over to Liu. "Now that the transaction is complete, I won't disturb your cultivation any further, fellow Taoist." Liu put away the legacy talisman, then clasped his hands in salute and took his leave. This fellow Taoist gold clock doesn't seem like an old fiend. He's very straightforward and trustworthy. Ancestor Han Shui took the pill and swallowed it. Boundless life force surged within him, permeating his entire body. In the blink of an eye, his withered body was full again. His body was strong, his chi and blood tyrannical. His skin was as translucent as jade, and his hair was as thick as ink. Ancestor Han Shui had completely recovered to his prime. Good, good, good. As expected of a Pill Pagoda Master's consummate divine pill. It's truly extraordinary. Ancestor Han Shui beamed with joy as he sensed the life force in his body. Then, why are there 3 more bone blades in between my fingers? They're like claws. Ancestor Han Shui clenched his fists, and 3-foot-long silver bone blades slowly emerged from between his fingers. Seeing this situation, Ancestor Frosty Snow was baffled. Could it be that the pill's life force is so strong that I've grown a few more bones? Or perhaps it's because of my ancient bloodline. What Ancestor Han Shui didn't know was that at the mouth of the well, Li De was laughing strangely. "Hello, Wolverine. Goodbye, Wolverine." Chapter 1274. I'm not trying to scam you. Patriarch Frigid Snow had unwittingly become a lab rat, and Liu had officially completed his first human experiment. However, Wasn't the result very good? His genes hadn't collapsed, and he had even regained his youthful vigor. This was a good thing. No need to thank me, said Meng Hao. My surname is Lei. Having given Patriarch Frigid Snow a huge gift, Liu returned to his residence, face beaming. I've got the legacy talisman. All that's left is to wait for the Frigid Snow larva to hatch. Liu was somewhat interested in the miraculous nature of the eyeless larva. The paradoxical, undying nature of the larva, as well as the bizarre characteristics of its bloodline, was worth studying. Besides, I'll need to observe the wolverine for a while. I'll see if the experiment is a success. After returning to his residence, Liu sat down cross-legged on his bed and pulled out the Frigid Snow clan's legacy talisman. I hope the spirit-severing enlightenment of the past generations of Frigid Snow clan spirit-severing ancestors can give me some inspiration. He grabbed the legacy talisman and placed it on his forehead. With a touch of his divine sense, he stimulated the spirit-severing enlightenment stored within. I'm Frigid Snow Bao. On the day of the storm, I gained enlightenment of the Tao. When I was 1,000 years old, I performed my first severing. A mighty voice echoed out in Liu's mind. A boundless tempest stirred the heavens. An ancient figure, draped in a long robe, lifted his head up and roared. This is my first severing blade. This blade severed my familial ties, severed familial ties, and obtained the Tao. This Tao is the Tao of the heartless tempest. A merciless will float out. The great Tao is merciless. Heaven and earth are merciless. In the face of a tempest, all living things are like straw dogs. This is the enlightenment of the Wolverine's spirit severing, the Tao of heartless. I beg to differ. This is not my Tao. Liu tossed aside the enlightenment of the Tao of the heartless tempest. He continued to examine the spirit-severing enlightenment of the other Frigid Snow clan ancestors. I am Frigid Snow Cauldron, Grand Dragoner of the Frigid Snow clan. I gained enlightenment of the will of heaven on the summit of a snowy mountain, and performed my first severing in the myriad dragon's pool. This saber has severed my blood. A deep, blood-colored pond appeared. Ripples spread out, and many blood dragons soared into the sky. It was as if all the blood in his body had turned into dragons. Cut off the blood? It's somewhat similar to how I want to cut off my own body. I'll keep it for now. Liu had the system store a copy of his insights into spirit severing. Then, he skipped over it and continued reading the rest of the information. I am the Frigid Snow clan's Yellow Springs Grand Dragoner, Han Shuizong. Awakening in the Pale Land, enlightenment in the Forest of Bones. After comprehending the nirvana of life, he abandoned his physical body and made the first strike. Using this body to turn into white bones, you will achieve the deathly stillness of the Yellow Spring. You're ruthless. Upon seeing this spirit-severing insight, Liu could only give a thumbs up in admiration. Instead of being a human, he chose to become a skeleton. Did he really think that he was a Lich King? At the very least, the Death Knight has some meat. You're only left with a body of bones. What else can you do? You definitely don't have a girlfriend. Big Boss Lee concluded with certainty. I am the third-generation Grand Dragoner of the Frigid Snow clan. My name is Qi Nanning. I inherited the cold of midwinter from the second generation. I gained enlightenment on Mount Agarwood and severed my Tao on the midwinter plains. This blade of mine severed my own winter. From now on, there will be no winter in your life. Lee shrugged. If I sent you to the South Pole or the North Pole, you would probably cry, right? In a place where there was only winter, there was a cultivator without winter. Just the thought of it was interesting. I am Qi Nan Tian, the second-generation Grand Dragoner of the Agarwood clan. I sever my own 4 seasons and controlled the power of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. That was quite incredible. He used his own 4 seasons to replace the 4 seasons of heaven and earth. Compared to the cultivator without winter, he was infinitely more powerful. He definitely deserved to be called the second-generation primogenitor. I am Qi Nanning. Qi Nanning has 2 heads. His body is that of a dragon, and his tail is that of a phoenix. He was born in the 9th Sea. The Ji clan contended for the heavens. during the chaos of war. They fell into South Heaven and into the Western Desert. After receiving enlightenment, they regained their intelligence and became righteous demons. Their blood flowed in South Heaven, and they became a clan passed down from generation to generation. I severed the will of my spirit, and severed the sorrow of this life, severed the tears of this life. Never shed a tear for life. Thus, the legacy of the Frigid Snow clan, which was also the Agarwood clan, officially came to an end. So, the Frigid Snow clan are all descendants of demons. Liu put away the legacy talisman, then smiled and shook his head. After all this time, the Agarwood bloodline is very thin. It shouldn't have much of an effect on my Wolverine experiment. However, the Agarwood was a strange creature and could be used as a blood sample for research. Liu suddenly realized that the future of the Frigid Snow clan, which was also the Agarwood clan, was bleak. The enlightenment of the Frigid Snow clan ancestors of the past generations has given me some inspiration, but the problem is even bigger. If Liu wanted to achieve primal chaos, he would have to sever his own body. However, he wouldn't be like them, who would simply discard their bodies after severing them. What he needed to do was use the third blade of spirit severing to destroy his own body, then transform it into primal chaos. That form was reversible. After the body was transformed into primal chaos, the primal chaos would give birth to all living things, and from the primal chaos, a new body could be created. I didn't even have a girlfriend. I couldn't turn into primal chaos, never to return. Otherwise, how could I have a harem? The spirit severing technique that turns me into a skeleton definitely isn't suitable for I to use. Everyone's enlightenment of spirit severing was different, and Liu was well aware that he couldn't copy it, nor could he. Experiencing the enlightenment of spirit severing from the legacy talisman was just to see if he could get some inspiration. How to get some inspiration, he thought. Severing the 4 seasons and turning my own 4 seasons into the 4 seasons of the Western Desert actually gave me some inspiration. By the same principle, Liu severed his body, turned it into primal chaos, and then regained control of that primal chaos form. This was the path that Liu wanted to take. In order to take this step, my enlightenment is far from enough. I need time to build it up. It can't be done overnight. Liu retracted his cultivation and leapt off the bed. He walked over to the window and looked out at the world of ice and snow. He looked at the Frigid Snow clan members coming and going in the city, and suddenly understood something. In order to turn my body into primal chaos, I need to thoroughly understand the characteristics of my bloodline and the Tao of good fortune. Only then can I reverse the flow of good fortune and return to the origin. Therefore, he had to continue with his experiments. The future of the Frigid Snow clan would definitely be filled with darkness. Wolverine appeared, but that's not enough. The entire Frigid Snow clan is an excellent experimental subject. As for what would happen to the Frigid Snow clan and what would happen to them, I'm just here to do my research. What does it have to do with me, whether you die or not? I need to conduct extensive experiments to verify my Tao of good fortune. That's the key. Everything else is just a detail, so there's no need to worry about it. Fine. The life and death of the entire Frigid Snow clan was just a detail. Hopefully, they wouldn't be played too miserably. Chapter 1275. Hanshue Bao can't sit still any longer, can he? A day later, Liu sat in the living room, leisurely sipping tea as he waited for Hanshue Bao to come to his door. Hanshue Bao would definitely be suspicious and worried about the 6 claws on his hands. He would definitely come to find Liu and ask him about it. As expected, Hanshue Bao came a moment later. Fellow Taoist Golden Clock, are you here? Hanshue Bao is here to pay you a visit. Hanshue Bao was still a bit nervous about the 6 claws on his hands, so he came to Liu. Fellow Taoist Hanshue, welcome. Liu had been planning to take advantage of the Hanshue clan, and this Wolverine, who had come to his door, was naturally the best place to start. Fellow Taoist Golden Clock, thank you for helping me recover from the spirit-severing decay. Hanshue Bao can't thank you enough. After sitting down in the living room, Han Shui Bao cupped his hands in thanks to Li Yu. You're too kind, fellow Taoist Han Shui. Li Yu shook his head with a smile. It's just a transaction. There's no need to thank me. A transaction is a transaction. I still can't thank you enough. Han Shui Bao spoke very politely. Then, he turned to Li Yu and asked, fellow Taoist Golden Clock, have you traded your tribulation crossing pill with anyone else? No, I haven't. Li Yu naturally knew what Han Shui Bao wanted to ask. He pretended to be confused and asked, is there a problem with the pill? That's impossible. The title of Grandmaster of Ai's Pill Pagoda is not for nothing. This. Han Shui Bao hesitated for a moment, then smiled bitterly. Fellow Taoist Golden Clock, there's no problem with your pill. Swallowing a single pill allowed me to escape from my tribulation and return to my peak state. It's just that. He raised his hands and clenched them into fists. 3-foot-long silver bone blades appeared on each of his fists. Han Shui Bao stretched out his hands and looked helplessly at Li Yu. Fellow Taoist Golden Clock, I didn't find any other problems, but this thing makes me feel uneasy. What's going on? Li Yu suddenly stood up, his face full of shock. That's impossible. This old man's medicinal pills absolutely have no problems. This old man's title of Pill Tower's Grandmaster is not an undeserved reputation. The medicinal pills that this old man refined have never had any problems before. It was as if Li Yu felt that the title of Pill Pagoda Grandmaster had been insulted. Judging from old demon Golden Bell's appearance, it shouldn't be his doing. Seeing Li Yu's angry look, Han Shui Bao secretly nodded and placed his suspicion on his own ancient bloodline. The Frigid Snow clan was originally called the Agarwood clan. Agarwood was a monster. Wasn't it normal for the descendants of monsters to grow claws? To be honest, the origin of our Frigid Snow clan's bloodline is a bit different. Perhaps there's a problem with my own bloodline, causing the medicinal power of the pill to stimulate my bloodline, resulting in this phenomenon. Han Shui Bao looked up at Li Yu with a solemn expression. Fellow Taoist Golden Bell, because of my own bloodline, this matter cannot be blamed on you. It's just that I'd like to ask you to help me take a look and see if there are any other effects. Han Shui Bao had no idea whether or not there were any further effect from the pill. If his bloodline could truly revert to its ancestral roots and become Agarwood's true body, that would be a huge gain. However, the possibility of reverting to its ancestral roots was close to zero. It was more likely that he'd become half human, half demon. The Frigid Snow clan had long been humans. Who could accept such a monstrous half-human, half-demon appearance? What's more, being half-human, half-demon would have a huge impact on cultivation. Special bloodline? Li Yu nodded thoughtfully. No wonder. My medicinal pills are all refined for normal human bloodlines. It really might have some effect on your special bloodline. With that, Li Yu stood up. If you don't mind, fellow Taoist, could you take some blood for me to examine? I'll have to trouble you, fellow Taoist. Han Shui Bao hurriedly stretched out his finger and cut it. A stream of blood gushed out. Let this old man take a look first. Li Yu stretched out his hand and sucked the blood from Han Shui Bao's fingertip into his hand. He carefully examined it. As expected, it's not an ordinary bloodline. A ray of light flashed from his fingertip and fell into the blood. Li Yu began to analyze the trace of Agarwood bloodline in Han Shui Bao's body. That's too shocking, too terrifying. Fellow Taoist Han Shui, the origin of your bloodline is really an extraordinary existence. Li Yu analyzed the bloodline's characteristics and exclaimed in admiration. Fellow Taoist Han Shui, through the characteristics of your bloodline, I can sense the ancestor of your bloodline. With that, Li Yu stretched out his hand and waved. A ray of light flashed, and the image of a mythical beast, Agarwood, appeared in midair. It had the body of a dragon and the tail of a phoenix. Its wings covered the sky, and two huge heads grew side by side, similar to a double-headed snake. This thing's appearance was a bit like a double-headed chimera. Ancestor Agarwood. Seeing Li Yu's image, Han Shui Bao cried out in surprise and suddenly stood up. He looked at Li Yu with a face full of shock. Fellow Taoist, you are indeed a great alchemy master. You can actually sense the image of the ancestor from my bloodline. It's really amazing. Seeing that Li Yu's alchemy skills were so high, Han Bao believed in Li Yu even more. I understand. I understand. The life force contained in my pill is too strong, which caused you to activate a trace of the ancestor's bloodline. Li Yu did not disappoint Han Bao and quickly gave him an answer. Then, fellow Taoist Jin Zhong, will the ancestor's bloodline continue to be activated? This was the question that Han Bao was most worried about. He hurriedly asked anxiously, "That won't happen." Li Yu shook his head. "The ancestor's bloodline in your body is too thin. The pill can only make you change this much." So it's like that. Han Bao breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, there was no need to worry about turning into a monster. However, Li Yu's next words completely changed his feelings. "Perhaps I have a way to activate the ancestor's bloodline." But Li Yu looked at Han Bao, wanting to say something, but hesitated. Can it really activate the ancestor's bloodline? Can it really create the true form of the Agarwood? Han Bao's eyes shone, his heart burning with passion. If the true form of the Agarwood could be created, it would be a joyous occasion for the Frigid Snow clan. "I can't guarantee this." Li Yu shook his head solemnly. "This humble Taoist needs to test the pill. I need someone from the Frigid Snow clan to test the pill. From there, I can continuously improve the pill. Only then will I be able to refine the true body of the Agarwood." Li Yu looked at Han Bao with a solemn expression. "Testing the pill, will there be any danger?" "I can't guarantee it." Fellow Taoist's words are true. Han Bao nodded. Li Yu didn't hide anything. Instead, he openly asked the question, making Han Bao have a good impression of him. "Don't worry, fellow Taoist. In order to recreate the true form of the Agarwood and restore the glory of our ancestor, the Frigid Snow clan is not afraid of sacrifice." With these words, the Frigid Snow clan's fate of becoming a test subject was set. "Huh, fellow Taoist Han you don't think I's here to work for free, do you?" After conning someone, he still wanted to ask for benefits. This was Li Yu's style. Of course. Han Bao patted his chest. "Don't worry, fellow Taoist. Although the Frigid Snow clan has declined, our ancestor left behind many treasures. Fellow Taoist will definitely benefit." And so, Han Bao brought the entire Frigid Snow clan to Li Yu's door, crying and begging to be conned. Chapter 1276. Clang. Six claws popped out from the gaps between his finger bones. The silver and sharp bone blades flashed with a cold light, like six sharp daggers. Han Shan smiled wryly at the sight of the bone claws. Ever since Han Bao had recovered from the spirit-severing blight, the entire Frigid Snow clan had rejoiced. The Frigid Snow clan couldn't thank old Demon Goldenbell enough for saving their patriarch. After Han Bao recovered, he joined forces with old Demon Goldenbell to revive the glory of their ancestors. And so, I now have six claws on my hands. Han Shan retracted her claws and smiled wryly. Forefather Goldenbell's cultivation in Pill Dao is truly profound. Swallowing a single pill made the vitality in my body flourish to an unimaginable degree. She raised her hand and saw the wound on the back of her hand heal as soon as the claws appeared. The helplessness on her face deepened. "If this continues, I won't become a monster, will I?" She shook her head and smiled wryly. "Monster, we Frigid Snow clan are descendants of the Agarwood. We've always been monsters." More importantly, over the past few months, almost every core member of the Frigid Snow clan had grown six claws after taking old Demon Goldenbell's pills. The pill's effects were astonishing. Not only had it restored the clan's elders to their prime, but it also given them terrifying regenerative abilities. If it weren't for these claws, it would simply be a perfect divine pill. Fellow Taoist Goldenbell, have you made any progress in your research? Han Bao had practically become Li Yu's follower over the past few months. He'd followed Li Yu around and personally witnessed the miraculous effects of old Demon Goldenbell's pills. Every clan member who'd taken the pills had grown six claws. Han Shue Bao firmly believed that this was the result of activating their ancestral bloodline. He'd never imagined that he'd sent his entire clan to Li Yu's doorstep to be his lab rat. I've figured out the key to activating the Agarwood bloodline. Success is just around the corner. During this period of time, Li Yu had been collecting the Agarwood bloodline from the Frigid Snow Clan members. He had already completely analyzed the characteristics of the Agarwood bloodline. Once he figured out the characteristics of the bloodline, Li Yu would be able to create a real redwood sacred beast with his creation Dao. Great! That's great! Han Shue Bao was overjoyed. He quickly got up and bowed to Li Yu. Fellow Daoist Jin Zhong, my Agarwood clan will never forget your help. Don't be in such a hurry to thank me. I haven't finished yet. Li Yu raised his eyes to look at Han Shue Bao and shook his head. Daoist Han Shue, after the Agarwood bloodline is fully activated, there will be another problem. That was, after swallowing the pill, one would become a redwood's cub. With the growth cycle of the Agarwood, I'm afraid that it will only appear as an Agarwood for a long time. Indeed, this is also a problem. Han Shue Bao nodded solemnly. This world was ruled by the human race. This was the world of the human race. If the Frigid Snow Clan became a nest of monsters, perhaps some senior expert would come running over and say, "This old man is still missing him out. Can the Frigid Snow Clan make it convenient for me?" Actually, even if the Frigid Snow Clan were to supply you with resources, it'd be amazing if you could refine 3 or 5 complete Agarwood Trueform pills. There's no way you'd have enough for everyone. Li Yu naturally couldn't make his Agarwood Trueform pills sound too cheap. Although they cost nothing, he still had to put on a show. Fellow Daoist, what you need to consider is who you should give these Agarwood Trueform pills to. Of course, that's your problem. This old man is only in charge of pill refinement. Creating 3 or 5 Agarwood Sacred Beasts was a kind of experiment and also a way to verify his own creation Dao. Li Yu would only be able to comprehend the method of transforming his body into chaos if he thoroughly studied the changes in his bloodline and physical properties. Many thanks for your advice, fellow Daoist. Han Shue Bao clasped hands in farewell and left. Before long, all sorts of medicinal ingredients were delivered to Li Yu. Li Yu went into secluded meditation to concoct pills. Time passed day by day. Soon, the 1-year deadline was approaching. The frigid snow larva had hatched and was delivered to him. 3 days later, Li Yu opened the furnace and collected the pills. In one fell swoop, he had successfully concocted 5 Agarwood Trueform pills. Fellow Daoist Han Shue, these are the Agarwood Trueform pills. Li Yu sealed the 5 pills, then handed them over to Han Shue Bao. Many thanks, fellow Daoist. Many thanks, fellow Daoist. Han Shue Bao's hands trembled as he accepted the Agarwood Trueform pills. Reaching out, Han Shue Bao grabbed a Agarwood Trueform pill and swallowed it in one gulp. Ah! A miserable shriek filled the air. Han Shue Bao felt as if every part of his body were being pulverized. Blood-colored light filled the air as Han Shue Bao's entire body began to burn. The blood-curdling screams continued. Gradually, the screams turned into roars of madness. Roar! The roar shook the heavens, and the blood-colored light exploded. A 300-meter-long beast with 2 heads, 2 wings, the body of a dragon, and the tail of a phoenix, roared as it shot up into the air. Agarwood! Agarwood! At this moment, the members of the Frigid Snow Clan roared with fanatical excitement. Many thanks, fellow Daoist Golden Bell. Many thanks, fellow Daoist Golden Bell. After flying for a while, the gigantic Agarwood Trueform beast landed on the ground. It bared its fangs as it thanked Li Yu. However, having 2 heads and 2 mouths speaking at the same time sounded very strange. No need to thank me, said Li Yu, patting the bulging bag of holding at his waist. He smiled and nodded. Fellow Daoist, you've already paid for the pills. Consider it a business transaction. Of course, it was more of an experiment than a business transaction. During his year of experimentation with the Frigid Snow Clan, Li Yu had already verified his own Dao of good fortune. The path of combining bloodline characteristics to create other creatures had been verified. The frigid snow clans Wolverine and Agarwood had proven the validity of this path. Now that the matter is settled, I'll take my leave. With that, Liu and Meng Hao shot up into the air and left the frigid snow clan's outpost. Brotherly, said Meng Hao, you gave the frigid snow clan a bloodline restoration divine pill just because you received some benefits? You didn't scam them? After leaving the frigid snow clan's outpost, Meng Hao couldn't believe that Liu hadn't scammed them at all. I used them to verify my great Tao, said Meng Hao casually. Everyone benefited. Then he turned to Meng Hao and said, I found my own Tao in the Western Desert. Why don't you take a walk in the Western Desert and seek enlightenment of your own Tao? It's better to travel 10,000 kilometers than to read 10,000 books. I'm just about to take a walk. Meng Hao nodded in agreement with Li Yu's suggestion. The two of them shot off into the distance, whistling through the air. A few days later, the one-year period set by Devil Golden Bell was over. The Blacklands Palace cultivators and the Great Western Desert tribes once again joined forces to attack Holy Snow City. And then, how is this possible? I definitely stabbed him through the heart. How come he wasn't hurt at all? He can't be killed. The Frigid Snow Clan members have all turned into monsters. They can't be killed. After the Great Battle, the Blacklands Palace and the Western Desert Coalition Army had suffered heavy casualties. As for the Frigid Snow Clan, not a single one of them had been injured. This battle was impossible to fight. Chapter 1277. So this is the frigid snow larva? In the wilderness of the Western Desert, Liu looked at the small, translucent silkworm curled up in his palm. He smiled and nodded. Other than the power of coldness, I can't see anything special about it. I never imagined that after eating the Jalawa thunder mulberry leaves, it would evolve into an eyeless celestial silkworm. Liu had studied the Tao of good fortune for a long time, but had never personally seen an outsider evolve. Naturally, he was very interested in the eyeless celestial silkworm's path of evolution. The wonders of creation are mysterious and unfathomable. With a smile, he produced a pile of Jalawa thunder mulberry leaves, which he placed next to the frigid snow ginseng. Rustle, rustle, rustle. It was as if the Jalawa thunder mulberry leaves were a fatal attraction to the frigid snow larva. As soon as Meng Hao placed the leaves down, the frigid snow larva leapt into the pile and began to gnaw. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The more it ate, the louder it got. The more it ate, the faster it got. The more it ate, the more it got. He produced the copper mirror and duplicated it several times before finally satisfying the frigid snow larva's demands. When the frigid snow larva couldn't eat anymore, it rolled down from the Jalawa thunder mulberry leaves, where it began to spin a cocoon. It didn't take long for the frigid snow larva to wrap itself in a thick, white cocoon. Its life force continued to dissipate until it was completely gone. Less than half an hour later, there was no more life force left in the cocoon. From life to death, from death to rebirth. This is the Tao of Nirvana. Liu looked at the cocoon and nodded with a smile. Shed the mortal body, be reborn from Nirvana, and achieve the sublimation of life force. So that's how it is. Seeing this, Liu's heart stirred. He could faintly sense that his own Tao of primordial chaos was somewhat similar to the frigid snow larva's method of evolution. Only, there seemed to be a layer of paper separating them that he hadn't fully understood. Crunch. Suddenly, a cracking sound could be heard from within the snow-white cocoon, as if the frigid snow ginseng's corpse had moved. However, Liu sensed that this was not the case. It was as if there was a sudden clap of thunder. In the deathly stillness, a little bit of radiance suddenly bloomed, as if the first trace of light had burst out in the chaotic nothingness. In the blink of an eye, a majestic vitality erupted. Boom! The cocoon suddenly exploded, and an inch-long, finger-sized silkworm rushed out of the broken cocoon and floated in the air. It was pure and transparent, as if it had been carved from colored glass. This inch-long silkworm was no longer a frigid snow silkworm. It was an eyeless silkworm. The moment it broke out of its cocoon, the eyeless silkworm let out its first cry in its life. It was also the last cry of the silkworm. No eyes, no sound, only once in a lifetime. This cry wasn't loud. If one didn't listen carefully, they wouldn't even be able to hear it. However, this weak cry of a silkworm shook the entire world, shaking the entire space-time. The entire world came to a standstill at this moment. No eyes, no sound, only once in a lifetime. This sound stopped for a breath of time. In that one breath of time, the sky, the land, the wind, the clouds, everything was still, except Liu. This power of stillness began to spread out from the eyeless silkworm, filling the western desert, the southern domain, the eastern lands, the northern desert, the entire planet South Heaven, the entire 9 mountains and seas, and even the entire world of all heaven. This was a type of absolute stillness. The eyeless silkworm actually only had a single breath of life. However, that single breath of life was eternal. In the blink of an eye, one breath of time passed. However, in that one breath of time, the eyeless silkworm spat out its one and only thread. If the silkworm doesn't die, the thread won't break. If the thread doesn't break, the silkworm doesn't die. 1 is 10,000. An instant is eternal. It only has a single breath of life, but in that one breath of time, it jumped out of time, spat out its thread, and achieved its Tao. Liu laughed loudly. So that's how it is. One breath of time is eternal. After jumping out of time, lifespan naturally has no meaning. Actually, I was thinking about it the wrong way. Just like how cultivators seek eternal life, chi, condensation, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, all the way until they transcend heaven and earth. They spend an endless amount of time and experience countless dangers, but they can't compare to the eyeless silkworm's one breath. Eternal life? Eternal life? Instead of paying an endless price to endlessly extend one's life, it would be better to jump out of the long river of time. Because my body is also in matter, I can't jump out of the plane of matter. Just like how cultivators seek eternal life, they constantly increase their cultivation and extend their lives. My path of primordial chaos is the same. What exhausting the limits of good fortune? What studying the origin of bloodlines? It's all wrong. Jump out. The eyeless silkworm jumped out of time, and I jumped out of matter. Therefore, I saw primordial chaos clearly. Upon seeing the eyeless silkworm's evolution, Liu was suddenly enlightened. He jumped out of matter and looked at everything with a transcendent gaze. He already understood. It doesn't matter if it's all things in the world or all living beings in the world. Actually, in the end, everything is primordial chaos. Trample the heavens in search of the great Tao, and the great Tao already exists in the heart. All matter, all energy, everything originated from primordial chaos. It was a manifestation of primordial chaos. Everything that originated from primordial chaos must return to primordial chaos. Since that's the case, what am I worrying about? What am I worrying about? What am I estimating? Everything must be severed. Rumble. A shocking boom filled the air. Heaven and earth shook, and time and space trembled. It was as if the entire world were about to collapse. Brotherly, Meng Hao watched in astonishment as a beam of blade light shot out from the top of Liu's head, piercing through space and time, then slashed down toward Liu. My name is Liu. In the 9th mountain, South Sea, in the western desert, I sensed something from the eyeless silkworm and performed the first severing. This blade severed my pre-celestial sage body and Tao embryo. The sage body is not me. The Tao embryo is not me. Today I know that I am me. Sever all falsehood. Return to the origin. The majestic heavenly voice shook heaven and earth, filling the highest heavens. It spread throughout planet South Heaven, the 9 mountains and seas, the 33 heavens, and even the entire world of all heaven. First severing blade? Well, what kind of joke is this? When they heard the voice, all of the cultivators in the world of all heaven stared in shock. You're so powerful. You're capable of shaking heaven and earth. And you're talking about the first severing? You've only just reached the spirit severing stage. Are you *King kidding me? You're so powerful, yet you're only a spirit severing cultivator in the first step of cultivation, the spirit realm. Then what about those of us in the immortal realm, the ancient realm, and the Tao realm? That one sentence caused the entire world to be scared silly. Rumble. The saber light that spanned across the sky, slashed through space-time, karma, and fate before landing heavily on Liu's body. A bang could be heard as a dazzling violet gold light shot up into the sky. Boundless chi and blood splendor illuminated the entire world. This was Liu's pre-celestial sage body, Tao embryo. This was Liu's pre-celestial sage body, Tao embryo, the chi and blood splendor of his cultivation. It was like a blazing sun, and the violet gold light seemed to fill the entire world of all heaven. This is still the first severing blade? The chi and blood splendor enveloped all of the cultivators and living things in the world of all heaven. They were so crushed that they couldn't even lift their heads. Chapter 1278. Brotherly, what you're doing is going to kill people. Meng Hao screamed at Liu as he was pushed into the ground by the enormous chi and blood splendor. Huh, you're making a bit too much of a ruckus. Liu shook his head helplessly. Hold on for a bit, he said. I'll be right back. I'll be done soon. The sacred body is not me. The Tao embryo is not me. However, the sacred body and the Tao embryo both originated from primordial chaos and will eventually return to primordial chaos. He clenched his hand, and the first severing blade slammed into the violet gold chi and blood splendor. Both of them exploded and vanished into nothingness. The only thing left behind was a clump of primordial chaos energy that no one else could see or sense. So, my method was correct. Having severed the Tao embryo of the pre-heaven sacred body and transformed it into a clump of primordial chaos energy, Liu felt a surge of joy. The conditions for the body to transform into primordial chaos are ripe. Then, let's do it again. The violet gold divine splendor transformed into primordial chaos. Without the boundless power that had suppressed time and space, the living beings of all heaven breathed sighs of relief. However, before they could even rise to their feet, they heard another announcement that shook heaven and earth. A dragon among men, but a man is not a dragon. Sever all barriers to reveal one's true self. The second severing blade will sever my ancestral dragon body. Another earth-shattering boom rang out as a saber light pierced through the sky, piercing through space and time. The sacred body is not me. The ancestral dragon is not me. I am me. Second severing. A roar could be heard as the blinding blade of light severed time, karma, and fate. It severed the connection between Liu and the ancestral dragon body. Roar. The roar of a dragon shook the heavens. An enormous violet gold divine dragon stretched across the sky, occupying the entire sky. Damn it, it's coming again. Boundless dragon might covered the heavens and earth. The living beings of all heaven who had yet to crawl to their feet were once again pressed down onto the ground. As for the demons and aberrations, they prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling. That which originated from primordial chaos shall return to primordial chaos. He clenched his hand, and the blade of light and the violet gold divine dragon vanished, transforming back into a clump of primordial chaos energy. The mighty dragon might that shook the heavens and earth dissipated into nothingness. At this time, Liu no longer had the monstrous chi and blood of the innate holy being, nor did he have the endless divine power of the ancestral dragon body. He only had the weak chicken body of the past. This is the real me. This is the original me. This is my true face. Stretching out his hands, Liu shook his head with a smile as he saw the rough lines and calluses on his hands. This is how I look on Earth. After transmigrating from Earth to South Parting Island and becoming an odd-job disciple of Kangwoo Academy, Liu had actually become younger. He now looked like a 16 or 17-year-old. At this moment, after returning to his origin, Liu regained the appearance of a 21-year-old young man on Earth, the appearance of a poor loser. This body can't withstand my cultivation. After forming the Tao embryo of the innate saint body, even his cultivation base was unstable. I need to quickly make the third cut. Liu took a deep breath and prepared to perform the third severing. This cut was the most difficult. The reason he had severed the Tao embryo of the innate holy being and the ancestral dragon body was because they did not belong to Liu. Naturally, he could easily discard them. However, was he really going to discard his own true form? What if I'm wrong? What if this cut didn't allow me to form the primal chaos body and instead ended up killing me? Wouldn't that be an unjust death? If His Majesty Emperor you were to be played to death by him, he would definitely become the biggest joke in all the heavens. At this moment, all kinds of thoughts surged in Liu's mind, and all kinds of distracting thoughts came one after another. All magic is like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, or a shadow. It is like dew or lightning. It must be viewed as such. There is no human form, no self-form, no living being's form. This magic is called the formless primal chaos. The third severing blade is the formless blade. With a clear mind, Liu slowly lifted his arm, and a formless, all-encompassing blade of light shot out, piercing through the heavens and hanging high up in the air. Everything that originates from primal chaos must return to primal chaos. The blade of the third severing will sever my own body, sever my body, transform it into primal chaos, and achieve a great Tao. His will was unwavering, his faith unwavering. Liu waved his hand, and the blade chopped down toward himself. Rumble. The formless, all-encompassing blade of light slashed down from the sky. Time and space were annihilated. Karma was annihilated. Fate was annihilated. Matter was annihilated. Energy was annihilated. Everything was annihilated. As the blade chopped down toward the top of his head, Liu's body slowly faded away. The smoke dissipated, and a gentle breeze blew by, causing the leaves to drift about. And yet, the mighty entity who should have stood there proudly, whose might could shake all ages, whose might could shake both ancient and modern times, was now completely gone. Brotherly, he stared at the spot where Liu had just been standing. Rubbing his eyes, he couldn't find any trace of Liu. There was no life force, no aura. There was nothing. No way, right? Don't tell me that Brotherly has conned so many people that he conned himself. Meng Hao stared in shock, unable to recover from his shock. That's when the blade of the third severing descended. There was no space-time suppression, no boundless power that shook heaven and earth. There was no heaven-shaking, earth-shattering sign. It was as if everything had vanished into thin air. Don't tell me he failed his spirit severing? Someone so terrifying, so invincible, could actually fail his spirit severing? As of this moment, the faces of all the cultivators in the world of all heaven were filled with shock, as if they had been petrified. Don't tell me he's really dead? An indescribable feeling filled their hearts. They wanted to laugh, but also felt grief and also fear. You're such a terrifying entity, and yet you're playing around with spirit severing? That's great, isn't it? Sever your own body to achieve primal chaos. Isn't that a bit too much? You're the first peerless expert to play around with himself until he's dead. They say scourges last for 10,000 years. Brotherly, you're such a scourge. How could you die so easily? Meng Hao didn't think it was real. He simply couldn't believe that Liu would play around with himself to death. At the beginning of primal chaos, Yin and Yang appeared. Heaven and earth, Xian and Yellow Qi were born. A long, faintly discernible song floated out from within the void. Celestial music rose up in spirals. It was impossible to tell where it came from or where it ended. It was as if it came from anywhere in heaven and earth, but also as if it didn't exist in heaven and earth. It was as if it came from the beginning of time, but also as if it came from the end of time. It pierced through space-time, through karma, through fate, through all matter and energy, through all order and natural law. The sound seemed to come from every corner of the world, from every moment of time, from every material object. After the song finished, a figure appeared. It seemed to have appeared suddenly, but also seemed to have existed for millions upon millions of years. It seemed to exist in the present, but also seemed to exist in the past and the future. It was everywhere at all times. It was as if it didn't exist in any place, nor in any time. The figure seemed to be an illusory image, but also seemed to contain all reality in the world. It didn't seem to have a physical form, but also seemed to contain all matter. It seemed to be the shape of an ordinary person, but at the same time, it was so enormous that it covered all of space-time and all of heaven and earth. When they saw this, all of the living things in the world were scared senseless. Just what kind of existence was this? Just what kind of realm was this? So this is primal chaos. Liyu's face was filled with a smile. He waved his sleeve, and his aura was retracted. Not even the slightest bit of mystery could be seen. Chapter 1279. Just now, why did I feel so scared? Outside of the starry sky of the vast expanse, in a stretch of deathly still ruins, there was something as tall as a heavenly pillar, floating at the tip of a finger. Suddenly, an enormous eyeball opened. This was all heaven. All heaven had been conned half to death by Liyu, and was left with only one finger and one eyeball. I've only ever felt such terror from one person. That person was that damnable immortal, that shameless bastard, that despicable fiend. A hysterical howl could be heard coming from the lonely eyeball, filled with boundless hatred that caused the temperature in the area to drop. It was as if winter had arrived. What did he mean by meeting by fate? What did he mean by giving you good fortune? What did he mean by good fortune for you? It was all a lie. He cultivated the Tao of the void of primordial chaos, and in the end, he reduced me, an eternal being, to half-death. All that's left of me is a tattered corpse. How hateful! All heaven's hatred for Liyu was so deep that even the waters of the four seas would not be able to wash it away. Thankfully, my demon sovereign nirvana magic is on the verge of completion. The 99th demon, the 99th nirvana fruit, will soon ripen. Once I consume it, I will be reborn from nirvana and will be at my peak. Luo Tian, who was filled with hatred, slowly closed his remaining eye and fell into a deep slumber. He continued to wait for his 99th nirvana fruit. Unfortunately, he would never be able to accomplish his goal. Congratulations on achieving the great Tao, Brother Li. Meng Hao clasped hands and congratulated Liu as he floated down through the western desert wastelands. After many twists and turns, I entered the world to begin my cultivation anew. Who would have thought that in the end, it was you who gave me the opportunity to achieve the Tao? Although the enlightenment had come from the eyeless larva, it was Meng Hao who had raised it. In some ways, Liu still owed Meng Hao karma for achieving the Tao. Liu smiled and clasped hands in salute. Where there's cause, there's effect. I owe you the karma of attaining the Tao, and I will definitely repay you the karma of attaining the Tao. He flicked his finger, and a strand of formless primal chaos chi flew out from Liyu's fingertip into his forehead, where it transformed into an invisible mark. This is Meng Hao felt as if something had appeared on his forehead, but he couldn't see it, couldn't touch it, and couldn't sense its details. This is the karma of I repaying you for achieving the Tao. Liu smiled and waved his hand. You don't have to think about it now. Just pretend that nothing happened. When the time is right, karma will show itself. Meng Hao was all heaven's 99th nirvana fruit and was destined to be fused with by all heaven. Originally, Meng Hao had used his own enlightenment of the seal of the heavens hex to escape the fate of being consumed by all heaven. However, he had been cursed by all heaven, and everyone who had karma with him had died. Now that he had Liyu's primal chaos seal, if all heaven still tried to consume him, It would be a huge joke. Fate brings us together, and there are impermanents. Junior Brother Meng, it's time for me to take my leave. Now that he had a primal chaos body, Li Yu's mission in this world was complete. All that was left was to settle his karma. Brotherly, are you leaving? Meng Hao nodded, then clasped hands and bowed. Brotherly, you're extraordinary and refined. Naturally, you'll soar to the highest heavens. Junior Brother wishes Brotherly a safe journey. Goodbye, Junior Brother Meng. Smiling, Liu clasped hands and bowed again. Then he strode forward, vanishing without a trace. Now that he had a primal chaos body, Liu's cultivation base had advanced. Time and space, order, magical law, matter, and energy could no longer harm him. Time and space had no meaning in front of Liu. He was the source of time and space. He existed in time and space, and yet he didn't exist in time and space. As he vanished, he reappeared in the Golden Roar tribe of the Western Desert. A year had passed. The werewolves, vampires, griffins, and black dragons had all grown much stronger. Everything was developing according to Li Yu's original plan. I once said that I would give Zhong Qiao a better future. I would give the Golden Roar tribe a better future. Since I said that, then it's karma. Primal Chaos was not tainted by karma. However, Primal Chaos did not owe karma either. Then I'll give you a place to settle down. With a wave of his hand, the 9 golden-armored beasts Li Yu had taken with him all those years ago appeared in front of him. I want to play a new trick, but I'm still missing a few golden-armored beasts. He made a grasping motion, and the golden-armored cloud-stepping beast next to Zhong Qiao appeared in front of Li Yu. 2 other golden-armored beasts flew over from Spirit Beast Island. A total of 12 golden-armored beasts lined up neatly in front of Li Yu. In the name of Primal Chaos, in the name of the Sovereign, from this day forth, you are the golden saints of the 12 zodiac temples. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. 12 zodiac temples, Saint Seiya, transform. With a wave of his sleeves, the 12 golden-armored beasts in front of him suddenly burst out with brilliant golden radiance, transforming into 12 mighty, divine generals wearing golden armor. Golden saints of the 12 zodiac temples, your mission is to protect Athena. Oh, protect Zhong Qiao and uphold justice in the world. Burn, little universe. Fight, Saint Seiya. After messing around for a while, Liu waved his hand, turned around, and left. He did not take a single cloud with him, only leaving behind a group of golden saints. What's going on? 12 figures with boundless auras and incomparably resplendent golden light floated high in the sky, frightening the Golden Roar tribe's members. These people, why do I feel a little familiar? Zhong Qiao felt an indescribable connection from these 12 tyrannical figures. It was as if cloud-stepping beasts. Why do they give me the feeling of cloud-stepping beasts? Zhong Qiao was puzzled. Suddenly, she realized that the cloud-stepping beasts in her imperial beast hoop had disappeared, which made Zhong Qiao even more shocked. Greetings, Goddess Athena. 12 figures instantly descended from the sky and landed in front of Zhong Qiao. They half knelt on the ground and bowed. Under the orders of the Dominator, we, the golden saints of the 12 zodiac temples, swear to protect Athena and uphold justice. Monstrous golden radiance soared into the sky, and 12 brilliant stars appeared in the sky, illuminating the entire sky with endless divine radiance. Athena? My surname is not Athena. My name is Zhong Qiao. You have mistaken me for someone else? Under the dumbfounded gazes of countless people, Zhong Qiao's figure floated up and floated high in the sky, surrounded by 12 brilliant constellations. The Dominator has already ordered that Athena is Zhong Qiao. Zhong Qiao is Athena. All right, these one-track-minded fanatics took Li Yu's Athena. Oh, Zhong Qiao, to mean that Athena was Zhong Qiao. It should be said that this was not wrong. However, They actually took Li Yu's slip of the tongue seriously. The words of the dominator of primal chaos were the laws of heaven and earth. If he said that you are Athena, you are Athena. Even if the dominator was wrong, it was not the dominator who was wrong. Even if it was not Athena, it had to be Athena. Inexplicably, Zhong Xiao had become a goddess. Even the golden saints had appeared. Hopefully, this world would not be played too badly. The book had officially entered the final stage. According to the plan, there was still about 1,000,000 words left to complete the book. It would gradually unravel the previous secrets, reveal the origin of the system, and unravel the root of everything. Please pay attention. Chapter 1280. Jin Zhu has been my handmaiden for 5 years. I can't mistreat her. Li Yu's figure instantly appeared in front of Jin Zhu, in the Dragoner court. Grand Dragoner. When Jin Zhu saw Li Yu appear, she immediately rose to her feet and clasped hands in greeting. Before she could finish speaking, Li Yu tapped her on the forehead. Being Ai's handmaiden for 5 years is your good fortune. This is your good fortune. Reaching out, Li Yu grabbed a multicolored butterfly out of the rebirth cave. You're reading on novel full thanks. This was the mountain and sea butterfly. This was the escape route that Shui Donglu had left for the mountain and sea realm, a chance at survival. Shui Donglu, you sacrificed 90% of the lives of the mountain and sea realm to use the soul power of a dead mountain and sea butterfly. I'll give you a live mountain and sea butterfly. He clenched his hand, and the mountain and sea butterfly exploded, transforming into a beam of light that shot into Jin Zhu's body. Rumble. Multicolored light blossomed, and Jin Zhu's body underwent a heaven-shaking, earth-toppling transformation. When the multicolored light faded away, Jin Zhu was draped in multicolored clothing, and a pair of multicolored butterfly wings spread out from her back. Her aura was vast and boundless, so enormous that it seemed like an entire world. This was the mountain and sea butterfly. This was the mountain and sea butterfly that could support the entire mountain and sea realm. Grand Dragoner, in the blink of an eye, she had transformed from a foundation establishment cultivator into a mountain and sea butterfly with boundless power. Jin Zhu's face was filled with shock, and she had no idea what had just happened. This is your reward for being Ai's handmaiden for 5 years. This is your good fortune. Li Yu smiled and nodded. You're powerful, but your responsibility is also great. When war breaks out in the mountain and sea realm, you'll have to help. When that time comes, someone will come looking for you. Our destiny has come to an end. I bid you farewell. Li Yu took a step forward, and then vanished without a trace. Thank you for your kindness, Grand Dragoner. Facing the direction where Li Yu had disappeared, Jin Zhu bowed, shedding tears of gratitude. In the next moment, Li Yu's figure appeared outside the Golden Roar division. Shui Donglu, since you're here, why don't you come out? When Li Yu had captured the mountain and sea butterfly, he had purposely left behind a trace of his aura, allowing Shui Donglu to follow it and find him. Shui Donglu greets Senior. The void shook slightly, and a white-haired man appeared in front of Li Yu. Seeing this white-haired figure, Li Yu felt like he was looking at Wang Lin. Shui Donglu's appearance was too similar to Wang Lin's. No wonder he was Wang Lin's son. Wang Ping, I promised your mother Li Muin to take care of you. You don't have to be nervous. I naturally won't do you any harm. Li Yu smiled and greeted Shui Donglu. In fact, Li Yu knew that Wang Ping was not Li Muin's son. In the original fate, Wang Ping was Lu Mei's son. After being tormented by Li Yu, Wang Lin and Lu Mei no longer interacted, so Wang Ping naturally didn't exist. The current Wang Ping was just an illusory soul that Limo had extracted from his memories. He had turned the illusory soul into real and reincarnated in the mountain and sea realm. Wang Ping had fused with the soul fragment of Supreme Nine Seals and become Shui Donglu. Senior, you know my mother? Wang Ping had reincarnated in the mountain and sea realm, and Lord Li had taken care of him for countless years. Shui Donglu also considered Li Muin his mother. I know many people in your Wang family. Wang Lin, Wang Yu, Li Muin, Red Butterfly, Limo, and many others have some friendship with I. Li Yu smiled and nodded. Okay, I won't talk nonsense with you. You chased after me because I took your mountain and sea butterfly. Li Yu pointed at the Golden Roar Division's Dragon Hall and said, I resurrected the mountain and sea butterfly and turned it into a woman named Jinju. If you need her in the future, go find her. With that, Liu pointed at the Golden Roar Division's main city. There are 12 gold saints in the main city of the Golden Roar Division. In the future, there will be even more silver and bronze saints. If you need cannon fodder, if you need warriors, just go and gather them. Is this the kind of care Senior has for me? Many thanks, Senior. The resurrection of the mountain and sea butterfly meant that they didn't need to sacrifice countless lives to carry the mountain and sea realm away. This made Shui Donglu very happy. Shui Donglu had also sensed the auras of the 12 gold saints. They were indeed very powerful and would be hard to come by helpers. Of course not. Liu shook his head. Since I made a move, how could I be so stingy? How could I take out such a small thing? If that's all I've given you, I'll be laughed at by your parents. He stretched out a finger, and a strand of primal chaos energy swirled around it. You fused with Supreme 9 Seals, but your cultivation base has yet to reach his level. Back then, Supreme 9 Seals had already cultivated his body to the Tao Source realm, and had a half-step transcendence cultivation base. The primal chaos energy swirling around the finger touched Shui Donglio's forehead. Primal chaos gave birth to all living things, and good fortune could be created with a single thought. An enormous power enveloped Shui Donglio's body, and a boundless radiance surged up. I've restored Supreme 9 Seals cultivation base to the Tao Source realm, allowing you to have a half-step transcendence body. With this strength, you will have no problems dealing with the changes in the mountain and sea realm. Withdrawing his finger, Liu nodded and smiled at Shui Donglu. Even if he wanted to create a transcender, given Liu's current level of primal chaos, it would be easy. However, the Tao of Transcendence had to be walked by oneself. Demons, ghosts, and gods all had their own Tao, and they all transcended because of their own Tao. Liu naturally couldn't spoil Shui Donglu through excessive enthusiasm. If he harmed Shui Donglu too much, he would be too embarrassed to face Wang Lin and the others in the future. When one's body turned into a Tao source, they would have the power of a half-step transcendence cultivator. If one wanted to walk the Tao of Transcendence, they still had to walk it themselves. This wouldn't have much of an impact. Is this the power of the Tao source realm? Feeling the power of Supreme 9 Seals, which came from the same source, Shui Donglu took a deep breath and bowed to Liu. Many thanks for Senior's kindness. With Supreme 9 Seals combat power, Shui Donglu had enough confidence to wage war against all heaven's fictitious barbarian devil continent and immortal astral continent. There would be no need to sacrifice so many people, and there would be no need to pay countless casualties. It's just a small matter. Liu waved his hand and looked up at the void with a smile. Your father is also in this world. Do you want to see him? Father? Didn't they already leave this world? Even his father had to use them. So, Shui Donglu felt very helpless. Wang Lin and Lin Mo were one, but both of them had transcended and were independent of each other. The two fathers were the same person, but also not the same person. This kind of feeling was really awkward. Lin Mo has been looking after you. Well, now he is gone. How irresponsible. His own son. He doesn't even care if he beats him to death. He just watches from the side and doesn't let his soul scatter. The old Wang family's education method is really strange. Senior, I can't answer this. Shui Donglio's face was filled with helplessness. Was it really appropriate to talk about his father in front of his son? Chapter 1281. After transforming into primal chaos, I need to understand karma. Liu shook his head, then took a step forward, leaving the western desert and returning to the southern wastelands. Back then, I joked with Chun Fan about rebuilding the Reliance sect. Who would have thought that my words would become karma? It seems I won't be able to casually make wishes in the future. The Lord of Primal Chaos was the source of all matter, all order, all time, all space, all fate, and all karma. Such an existence could be born with a single thought and spoken with a single word. It was the will of heaven, the law of heaven, and the law of heaven. Liu wasn't the complete lord of primal chaos and couldn't decide the fate of everything with a single word. Transforming into primal chaos was only the first step. He still needed to complete the next two steps, transforming into primal chaos and divinizing primal chaos. Only then could Liu become the complete lord of primal chaos. Because of that, his words already had the status of the Lord of Heaven, but they didn't have the power of the Lord of Heaven. If the Lord of Heaven couldn't be fulfilled, then it wasn't the Lord of Heaven. This was a denial of Liu's existence. Therefore, I need to find Chun Fan to rebuild the Reliance sect. Liu glanced over the southern wastelands and found Chun Fan's location. This fellow, has he really eloped with Shanling? Liu shook his head. The solitary sword sect had been unlucky to have accepted a disciple like Chun Fan. Not only had he learned their techniques, but he had also abducted one of their girls. In the eyes of the solitary sword sect disciples, he was an ungrateful wretch. With a wave of his sleeve, he had only taken one girl with him. What a hero! Liu took a step forward, and without a sound, he appeared where Chun Fan had been standing. They were in a vast mountain range in the northwest of the southern wastelands, near the Milky Way Sea. Chun Fan and Shanling had built a hut at the edge of the mountain range, where they lived a life of you plow the fields, I weave the cloth. If it weren't for the teleportation array on I's Jade Talisman, allowing you to escape the pursuit of the solitary sword sect, you would be in a very miserable state right now. Liu pursed his lips as he watched Chun Fan build a hut and live out his days as an immortal. Young man, I's karma for reviving the Reliance sect still rests on you. I can't let you be so carefree. Walking towards the thatched cottage at the foot of the mountain, Liu laughed loudly. I only envy Mandarin ducks, not immortals. Senior Marshal Brother Chen's wedding is a joyous occasion. Junior Marshal Brother came late to congratulate you. Please forgive me. Liu, how did you find this place? Seeing Liu's arrival, Chun Fan's face was filled with shock and worry. How did you find me, even though I hid so far away? If that was the case, wouldn't the solitary sword sect be able to find them as well? Haha, Senior Marshal Brother Chun, did you forget that I was the one who gave you the teleportation talisman? Liu knew what Chun Fan was worried about, so he explained with a smile. I see. I still have to thank Junior Marshal Brother for his kindness. Chun Fan and Shanling bowed to Liu, expressing their gratitude. No need for that. Liu waved his hand. I came to disturb you two today because I have an important matter to discuss. Senior Marshal Brother Chun, do you still remember what we said years ago about rebuilding the Reliance sect? Rebuilding the Reliance sect. Chun Fan turned to look at Shanling, his face full of bitterness. In my current situation, how can I rebuild the Reliance sect? It's hard to say whether or not I'll be able to escape from the solitary sword sect. As long as Senior Marshal Brother is willing to rebuild the Reliance sect, Junior Marshal Brother can guarantee your safety. Liu smiled and waved his hand, sending a stream of primal chaos chi into the ground. Rumble. The earth quaked, and the mountains swayed. The surrounding mountains, which stretched for thousands of kilometers, began to shake violently. A mysterious yellow light flowed through the mountains, and the towering peaks began to change dramatically. It was as if a pair of invisible hands had grabbed the peaks and rivers. The mountains within a 1,000-kilometer radius were arranged into a gigantic spell formation. Bluestone stairs rose up from the mountains, and ancient, exquisite buildings began to appear. In a blink of an eye, the mountain range behind Chun Fan's cottage had turned into a sacred cultivation ground surrounded by a grand array, moving the mountains and filling the seas, reshaping the mountains and rivers. Junior Marshal Brother, you have such a divine ability? Chun Fan looked at the holy land behind him, then turned to look at Liu, his jaw dropping. Senior Martial Brother Chun, today I will rebuild the Reliance sect. Please, Senior Martial Brother, take charge of this place. With a wave of his hand, the mountain on which Chun Fan had built his thatched cottage transformed into a towering, ancient gate, tens of thousands of meters high. Above the gatehouse, the words Reliance Sect were written in large, simple, and vigorous characters. They glistened under the sunlight. You want me to take charge of this place? Junior Martial Brother, I'm only at the core formation stage. How can I take on such a heavy responsibility? Junior Martial Brother, you are so resourceful. You should take charge of the position of Sect Master. Chun Fan hurriedly declined. I don't have time for that. Liu smiled and shook his head. As for the problem of my cultivation base, Senior Martial Brother, that's easy to deal with. He reached out with his hand, and the ground on either side of the gate began to shake violently. 12 enormous statues lined up neatly on either side of the gate. However, these statues were of chickens, dogs, cats, rabbits, pigs, horses, cows, sheep, and so on. Apart from a tiger and a dragon that were a bit special, the others were all ordinary creatures. Chun Fan was very puzzled. He didn't know why Liu would put up these statues of ordinary beasts in the cultivation sect. Senior Martial Brother, don't underestimate these statues. They're all extraordinary. He waved his hand, and a formless primal chaos chi swept out. The 12 enormous statues suddenly transformed into living creatures. Squeak, woof, meow, moo. For a moment, the entire gate was filled with the sounds of various animals. It was a cacophony of noises, as if they had arrived at a marketplace. Boom! Another explosion sounded out. Under Chun Fan and the mountain spirit's astonished gazes, the animals of the 12 statues had transformed into human forms. They transformed into men and women wearing armor of various colors. Zishu greets the sovereign. Cho Ox greets the sovereign. Een Tiger greets the sovereign. 12 figures clad in armor of various colors knelt down in front of Liu. From today onwards, your mission is to protect the Reliance sect. Obey the orders of Senior Martial Brother Chun Fan. Yes. The 12 figures bowed, then bowed to Chun Fan. Greetings, Sect Master. What's going on? In the blink of an eye, the animals that the statues had turned into suddenly transformed into experts with boundless auras and immense strength. These are the 12 Yuan Chun Divine Generals. Liu introduced them to Chun Fan, a strange smile on his face. The 12 Yuan Chun Divine Generals. You can also call them Zodiac Guardian Gods. Zodiac Guardian Gods? Chun Fan blinked. He had a feeling that this name had a lot of history. Liu shrugged. The golden saints of the 12 Zodiac temples had appeared. Wasn't it normal for another Zodiac Guardian God to appear? Chapter 1282. There's one final karma. Liu turned and left the newly built Reliance sect. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the Blood Demon sect's outpost. Years ago, I entered the Blood Immortal Legacy Zone from the well outside of the Blood Demon sect's outpost. When I reached the perfect foundation, I asked the Blood Immortal to block a heavenly tribulation for me. Liu looked at the well, and then back at the Blood Demon sect. He smiled and nodded. I owe you a favor, and promise to help you. Naturally, I can't go back on my word. The Blood Immortal of Doom refused to share the heavens with the G clan. The Blood Immortal's long-cherished wish was to defy the heavens and pull G Tion down from his position as Lord of the Ninth Mountain and Sea. Therefore, I'll give you this opportunity. Liu made a grasping motion that pierced through time, through fate, and through karma. He pulled the Blood Immortal of Doom's true spirit seal out of the void. I owe you the power of tribulation, and I'll repay you with karma. I'll let you be reborn into the world and fight for heaven with the G clan. He tapped the Blood Immortal of Doom's true spirit seal, and the power of good fortune was unleashed. The blood immortal of Mount Blood Demon of the ancient demon immortal sect was once again created. The blood immortal of Doom slowly regained consciousness. He looked around at the land in front of him, and his face filled with confusion. Wasn't he already dead? Why? Years ago, I borrowed your blood immortal legacy zone to transcend tribulation. Today, I'll repay you with karma. A voice rang out beside the blood immortal's ear. The doomed blood immortal suddenly turned around and only saw a faint shadow flash by. There was no trace of it. Borrowed my legacy zone to transcend tribulation? This is a cultivator of the younger generation? He can actually bring me back to life. Just what realm is he at? The blood immortal of Doom's face was filled with astonishment at this divine ability, which completely defied imagination. The karma has been settled. There's no need for me to stay in this world any longer. Li Yu's goal in coming to the sealed heaven realm had been accomplished. He had taken the critical step toward becoming a primordial chaos cultivator. The path ahead was clear. All he needed to do was continue onward. Time to go back. With a flash, Li Yu left the sealed sky world. Unlike in the past, Li Yu did not use the system's interplanar teleportation function this time. Instead, he completed it with his own power. Li Yu's strength had taken a huge leap after attaining the chaotic body. The space-time plane and the myriad worlds were no longer a boundary that was difficult to cross. Instead, it was a smooth path that could be crossed at will. All the worlds that Li Yu had experienced were clearly presented to him through his space-time perception. It was as if there were many different rooms, surrounded by sturdy walls and tightly shut doors. However, at this moment, Li Yu already had a management room card that could open all the doors, so he could easily open any room. The ruler of all time and space in the myriad worlds of the heavens. After forming the chaotic body, I'm no longer far away from that. Li Yu chuckled. He turned into a ball of nothingness and swept through the void of the world. He crossed the distance of endless space and instantly returned to the divine dwelling. I'm sure the system's ability to cross planes is very similar to my current ability. Li Yu could now understand many of the system's functions. He could even break free from the system and complete them himself. For example, the interplanar teleportation, the scanning, decomposition, and synthesis of matter, the conversion of matter and energy, the creation of various skills, and the derivation of various cultivation methods. Li Yu could complete them all by himself. However, I still can't create the various subsystems. Li Yu still could not complete the system's main function, which was to sell the system's functions to the myriad worlds of the heavens. After forming the chaotic body, I can clearly see the system's existence. Li Yu could clearly sense the system's existence now. It was no longer as invisible and untouchable as before. He did not know what it was. In Li Yu's perception, there was an inexplicable point in his soul. It seemed to be infinitely small, but also infinitely large. It seemed to exist now, but also seemed to pass through time. It seemed to be material, but also seemed to be nothingness. It seemed to be real, but also seemed to be illusory. So, the system is the state of chaos. After forming the chaotic body, Li Yu could already see what kind of existence the system was. It was the state of chaos. I can still sense the system's existence, but I can't fully understand it. It seems that the system is a complete state of chaos. It is 2 levels higher than my current realm. Then, here comes the question. Who created the system? To be able to create a system in a complete state of chaos, then the creator could not be lower than the complete state of chaos. This world, at the very least, there is an existence in the complete state of chaos. Friend? Enemy? What is the purpose of the creator of the system giving it to me? What is the reason? The more he understood, the more doubts he had. Li Yu sighed. He raised his eyes and glanced at the shopping mall that had turned into 9 continents. All of a sudden, Li Yu had another question. What is the purpose of this shopping mall? All this time, with Li Yu's growth, with the increase of the system's authority, the shopping mall had also become bigger and bigger. It had become an immortal paradise full of spiritual energy. But this thing is of no help to my cultivation. In fact, it had not been of much use all along. Is it just to give me a place to settle down? To give me a solid base? The existence of the shopping mall is definitely not that simple. The system has always emphasized that the shopping mall is the foundation. But where is this foundation reflected? At this moment, Liu suddenly realized that the shopping mall that he had always been accustomed to also had a huge secret. What is the shopping mall used for? Moreover, the system was sold everywhere in the universe. Is it just because the system wanted to collect information about the universe? If this was the purpose of the creator of the system, then why would an existence that had achieved the state of chaos need these things? To collect them as collectibles? There must be a reason that I don't know. Liu walked out of the immortal residence and arrived at the immortal court of the Undying Mountain on South Parting Island. This world also has many unsolved mysteries. The various prefectures of the origin world seem to be formed by the fusion of different worlds. There are even existences that seem to be Zhang Xiaofan and Wen Tianxiang. Even if Liu controlled the entire world with his own laws, he still could not find a root of these mysteries. Liu raised his head to look outside the origin world and into the void. He looked at the cyan wall in the void, at the spike, and at the hall at the top of the spike. He shook his head again. The blue wall, the spike, the statue and hall, and even that voice that does not exist in the timeline. At the same time, there are still many mysteries and unknown secrets. Taking a deep breath, Liu pressed the profound yellow sword at his waist. Next, my main goal is to increase my cultivation and make myself a complete state of chaos. Secondly, to solve these mysteries. Chapter 1283. I have to take a look at the green wall and spikes again. With Liu's current body of chaos, he should be able to see something. Stepping forward, Liu instantly penetrated the void and arrived at the hall at the top of the spikes. The situation in the hall was the same as before. A statue stood in the middle of the green hall. A statue of Liu himself. It's indeed different. In Liu's eyes, the green hall and statue were completely different from before. So it's formed from chaos. No wonder I couldn't tell what material these things were made of. No wonder my attacks were ineffective against them. After attaining the body of chaos, Liu could already see the original appearance of the green hall and statue. They were all formed from chaos. Just like the body Liu revealed now, it was still chaotic in nature, but it showed the appearance of a material structure. The green wall, spikes, and statue were all formed from chaos. It's actually an existence equivalent to the system. No wonder the system couldn't tell their origin. In essence, the green wall, spikes, and statue were all formed from chaos. They were the same as the system's existence. The system's analysis and scanning function naturally had no effect on them. But who made the green wall, spikes, and statue? Could it be me? The statue was Liu himself. The him in the main world was also Liu himself. Could it be that these things were all made by me? There's definitely something wrong here. Liu shook his head again. After attaining the body of chaos, he naturally knew how powerful chaos was. It was the source of all matter and order, all energy and laws. Such an existence couldn't have the concept of death at all. If it was really Liu's so-called previous life, or the past Liu who made these things, then what was the point? It couldn't be so boring that he killed himself, leveled up, wiped his memory, and played the game again, right? It was enough to clear the game once. It would be too boring to replay it again. Even Liu himself didn't believe this reason. What kind of secret does it contain? Liu kept thinking and coming up with all sorts of hypotheses. The creator of the system had to be a complete primal chaos realm existence. The creator of the green wall and spikes might have reached a similar realm. Were the two related in the end? Could it be the same person? If they were the same person, why couldn't the system recognize green wall and spike? Did that mean that there were two primal chaos realm characters in this world? Chaos was the source. The root could only exist in one place. It was impossible for two origins of chaos to coexist in this world. The creator of the system must be in the primal chaos realm. There is already an origin of chaos in this world. then will my future path still be as smooth as it is now? Will the creator of the system allow me to become the source of chaos? There were more and more thoughts in his mind, and they were getting more and more chaotic. Liu suddenly felt a headache coming on. I'm selling systems in the myriad heavens, in myriad worlds, developing my offline network. Could it be that I'm just another person's downline? Thinking of this possibility, Liu shook his head again. But what's the point? The creator of the system is already the primal chaos realm. What's the point of doing this? He shouldn't have any need for these anymore. The primal chaos overlord was the source of everything. No matter what it was, as long as it was born with a thought, it could be born from the primal chaos. Even Liu himself was no longer interested in the benefits of the system's downline. The primal chaos overlord would definitely not be interested in it. I can't think about it anymore. If I think about it anymore, my brain will explode. Shaking his head, Liu stopped thinking about those mysteries and focused on observing the statue. The statue formed from the primal chaos overlord had turned into a statue of Liu himself. This thing, what's the connection with me? Pressing his hand on the statue, Liu's figure instantly dissipated, turning into a mass of primal chaos. He carefully sensed this statue formed from primal chaos. This is a mass of primal chaos, and its realm is even higher than mine. But it doesn't have any connection with the primal chaos overlord in me, and there are no signs of it fusing into one. Liu sighed inwardly. Is my realm still not enough? If I can't become a complete primal chaos overlord, I don't have the right to fuse with this primal chaos overlord statue? Retracting the primal chaos overlord he had manifested, Liu was just about to leave the statue. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly discovered something strange at the heart of the statue. It was a speck of light surrounded by endless primal chaos. What is this thing? With a thought, Liu's primal chaos body instantly dispersed, passing through the primal chaos overlord statue's aura and landing in that speck of light. Primal chaos had long since lost the concept of size. When Liu's figure landed in that speck of light, he suddenly discovered that this was a vast world. What is this place? Blue sky, white clouds, and verdant earth. Before him was a fertile land full of vitality. However, Liu was unable to sense any movement from this part of the world. There was only silence. It was like a peaceful and quiet land of silence. The scenery was beautiful, but there was no sound at all. Da-da-da. Only the sound of Liu's own footsteps echoed in this tranquil world. This is... Liu lowered his head to look at his feet, and a look of surprise suddenly appeared on his face. Blue sky, white clouds, and lush green grass. This was a beautiful grassland scene. However, in the lush green grass, there were piles of white bones. Densely packed and endless, as if the entire land was piled up with white bones. Under the green grass, there were actually endless corpses. How many people have died here? Seeing this scene, Liu was speechless. Even in shrouding heaven world, the underworld that had been buried for countless eras, there did not seem to be such a vast and endless land of corpses. Moreover, the grass growing on the white bones looked so strange that it made one's hair stand on end and shudder. There seems to be something over there. The primal chaos I that could see through endless time and space was actually restricted in this world. Liu's primal chaos, I could only vaguely see some scenes. Traversing the void with a single step, the primal chaos body that could see both near and far was also unable to appear in any place at the same time. This world must have been created by a primal chaos master of a higher realm than me. Breaking through the void, Liu arrived in a vast and boundless plain. In the center of this plain was a vast and boundless palace that towered into the clouds, occupying an area of over 10,000 kilometers. Around this palace, on the vast plains, stood countless statues. Statues in armor were lined up neatly in this vast field. They were so densely packed that it was as if a huge army was lined up neatly. Terracotta soldiers, Seeing these endless armored statues, Liu immediately thought of the terracotta soldiers. However, the words inscribed on a huge stone stele in front of him made Liu realize that these were not as simple as terracotta soldiers. The sovereign has fallen. Heaven and earth overturned. Time and space collapsed. All living beings in the multiverse were buried with the sovereign. Heaven and earth mourned. All living beings mourned. Heaven and earth fell silent. All living beings fell silent. This was a tomb, the tomb of a supreme martial artist. Then, who was this supreme martial artist? Chapter 1284. All living beings were buried with him. Liu opened his mouth, his expression unreadable. No wonder this land was piled with countless skeletons. It turned out that a supreme had died and was buried with him, but a supreme who ruled over all the realms, a supreme who was of a higher realm than Liu, had actually died? How could someone who didn't even have the concept of death die? Even I, who have only attained the chaotic body, possess the characteristic of eternity and transcend the concept of death. How did this person, who was of a higher realm than me, die? More importantly, who was he? The creator of the spikes on the green wall? Or the creator of the system? Could it be that this was a battle between two supreme sovereigns of chaos, and one of them destroyed the other? Only the chaotic body could kill the chaotic body. This should be the truth. Looking up at the boundless palace in front of him, Liu nodded. That should be the Supreme's tomb. Taking a step forward, Liu was about to pass through space and head toward the palace. Boom! The void shook, and the blue sky and white clouds instantly turned into a patch of chaos. Dense chaotic chi poured down like a torrential rain. Holy sh**T. Liu's heart tightened, and he hurriedly transformed into the chaotic body and released streams of chaotic energy to resist the storm of chaotic energy. Chaotic energy bombarded each other, and the effect was very environmentally friendly. There was no earth-shattering noise, no dazzling brilliance, only silent mutual annihilation. The loudest sound was silent, and the greatest sound was formless. The sound of chaos, the image of chaos, was the loudest sound and the greatest image in all the realms. This silent annihilation was even more dangerous and terrifying than those earth-shattering battles. If one was careless and was destroyed by the chaos, then from matter, order, time, karma, fate, and so on, all traces of existence would be completely erased. Phew! I finally made it through. After withstanding this wave of chaotic energy, Liu hurriedly retracted his aura, no longer daring to be ostentatious. It seems that this Supreme's tomb can only be reached by walking. You can't break through the void to advance. Even if a chaos sovereign had perished, he still needed to be respected. Breaking through the void to advance was disrespectful to the primal chaos sovereign. Even if you died, he would still punish you. Wait a minute. If this Lord of Chaos was killed by another Lord of Chaos, all traces of his existence would be erased, right? Why are there still tombs left behind? This was a characteristic of chaos. If he was killed by chaos, all traces of him would be completely erased from matter, order, space-time, karma, and fate. Could it be this supreme martial artist isn't completely dead yet? Liu shook his head again. In a battle between primal chaos sovereigns, there shouldn't be a situation where someone wasn't completely dead. Unless both sides suffered heavy losses? Forget it. Let's go take a look at that tomb first. Taking a step forward, Liu leaped up and passed through the vast terracotta soldiers, heading straight for the mausoleum. Since he couldn't travel through space, he could only fly. Even with Liu's speed, it took him 7 days to pass through the vast terracotta soldiers and arrive at the main entrance of the mausoleum. 99,999 white jade steps. At the top of the stairs, there was a huge, majestic door. In the middle of this door, there was a huge plaque hanging high with a line of words written on it. Infinite primordial chaos, primordial beginning, absolute truth, Yu Huang de Tianzuan. On that huge plaque, a line of words that Liu was very familiar with suddenly appeared. This wasn't the key point. The key point was, behind this title, there were two words. Tuma. Liu was stunned. Am I looking at my own grave? This is my own tomb? That fallen supreme martial artist, that primal chaos sovereign who was killed by someone, is actually me? All the worlds and the heavens were destroyed, and countless lives were buried. How could I do such a thing? This doesn't fit I's style, right? At this moment, Liu actually felt a sense of helplessness. Is this how the plot works? Endless years ago, the primal chaos sovereign, fought with another primal chaos sovereign, and then I died, and so did the enemy. The primal chaos sovereign, severed my true spirit from the primal chaos realm, erased my level, erased my skill points, and then opened a new account to start all over again. Perhaps this is the truth? Sighing helplessly, Liu raised his head to look at the majestic door. If this is really the case, then this mausoleum is the place where I get my original level and skill points back? Since I have to open a new account to start all over again, even some online games have the concept of relics and family heirlooms. Presumably, that me wouldn't have thought of this, right? So, this is an opportunity? An opportunity to get back my own strength? A smile appeared on Liu's face. He leaped up the white jade stairs and arrived before the huge door. Since this is my thing, then, I'm back. Standing in front of the door with his hands behind his back, Liu said with a smile. Clang! As soon as he finished speaking, the huge door opened with a bang. Brilliant rays of light flowed, and melodious, celestial music rose in spirals. Tens of thousands of auspicious clouds, thousands of auspicious vapors, and flowers fell from the sky. The entire world seemed to be cheering, as if after an endless period of silence, it finally welcomed its master. Interesting. The smile on Liu's face became even brighter. Passing through the rays of light, he stepped into this incomparably huge palace. At the top of the hall, there was a dazzling throne placed on a high platform. A tall and imposing figure, dressed in a white robe and wearing a golden crown, sat on the throne. This figure's appearance was exactly the same as Liu's. This is that me? The primal chaos sovereign, the origin of everything. Looking up at the figure on the throne, Liu's smile became even brighter. Since this is me, since I am the master, then everything will be according to my will. Looking at the figure on the throne, Liu slowly raised his arm and stretched out his hand. After an endless period of time, I'm back. Come here. My original strength, my original everything. Return to me. Let me regain my former glory. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the radiant figure on the throne suddenly exploded, turning into a cloud of chaotic aura. In an instant, it crossed the void, rushed in front of Liu, and rushed into Liu's mind. Then the so-called original strength did not come. What came was only a maniacal laugh. Ha ha, you've been tricked. After countless years of planning, you've finally fallen into my hands. A burst of laughter sounded in Liu's mind. You think all of this is yours? Ha ha ha, this is all fake. You Huang de Tianzuan. What? I'm just messing with you. You are the key. You are the key to opening the land of origin. After possessing you, this old man will be able to enter the land of origin and obtain the authority of the primal chaos sovereign. This old man will become the new primal chaos sovereign, son of primal chaos. Even if you hide in the pearl of origin, this old man will still find you. I'll let you enter the myriad worlds, watch you grow, watch you attain the primal chaos body. This old man has waited for countless years, and this day has finally come. The voice in his mind was filled with ecstasy. This primal chaos existence, who was at a higher level than Liu, suddenly became a chatterbox. Villains died because they talked too much. This was an unbreakable truth. Excuse me. Liu had a faint smile on his face. May I know the name of this great master? Hearing Liu's words, this old man was stunned. He was being possessed, yet he still had the leisure to ask my name. What was going on? I'll let you die with understanding. This old man is Tai Xian, Heavenly Emperor Tai Xian, who was in charge of the outer realm of origin under the primal chaos sovereign. Although he didn't know where Li Yu got the leisure to do so, this Heavenly Emperor Tai Xian still reported his name. In fact, didn't the reader need to know the name of the villain? So it's Heavenly Emperor Tai Xian. Li Yu chuckled. Hello, Tai Xian. There's a question I'd like to ask. I have been giving opportunities for countless years and have cheated people all over the myriad worlds. You still use this method to cheat me. What gave you the confidence? Heavenly Emperor Tai Xian was suddenly shocked. He still had a trump card? It seemed that things didn't seem to be going as smoothly as he thought. You actually dare to possess me? How interesting. Possession. Possession again. Daring to possess Li Yu. Naturally, he didn't know that Li Yu had the system. A complete system formed by primal chaos. Even the primal chaos sovereign wouldn't dare to casually send his divine soul into the system's resource warehouse. Hello, Tai Xian. Goodbye, Tai Xian. Li Yu smiled and reached out. Endless light burst out of the system's resource warehouse. Heavenly Emperor Tai Xian suddenly realized that he didn't enter Li Yu's sea of consciousness at all, but the system's resource warehouse. This is the proof of primal chaos? The primal chaos sovereign. He actually left the proof of primal chaos to you? Heavenly Emperor Tai Xian, who had been swept into Li Yu's sea of consciousness by the system's resource warehouse, burst into a horrified scream. Proof of primal chaos? So that's the system's name? Him? The primal chaos sovereign? Where did this expert come from? Forget it. Let the system decompose you, and the truth will be revealed. Li Yu smiled and shook his head. He activated the resource warehouse and continued to decompose the chaotic aura that Heavenly Emperor Tai Xian had transformed into. Although the proof of primal chaos is powerful, you can forget about finding anything from this divine clone of mine. Son of primal chaos, just you wait. This is just the beginning. With a loud boom, the mass of chaotic chi that had been collected into the resource vault was annihilated. Even the system can't fully control it. This was the first time the system's resource warehouse had failed. Beings that had been sucked into the resource warehouse had always been under the system's control without any ability to resist. However, this guy named Tai Xian had self-destructed, and the system couldn't find any information about him. Heavenly Emperor Tai Xian? The celestial emperor who ruled over the outer realm? What the hell was the outer realm? The system was called the proof of primal chaos. It must have been created by the primal chaos sovereign. What was his relationship with the primal chaos sovereign? The son of primal chaos? I'm his son, the son of primal chaos. One old-fashioned title. Li Yu shrugged speechlessly. The son of primal chaos is the key to opening the land of origin. The power of primal chaos, the outer realm. All right, there are more and more questions. Chapter 1285. Why do I feel like something's wrong? Celestial, the Tai Xian needed Li Yu, the son of chaos. He wanted to use this key to enter the land of origin and obtain the authority of the primal chaos. Thus, he planned for countless years to possess Li Yu. But when Li Yu was still a weakling and hadn't even activated the system, wouldn't possession have been easy? Why wait until now? Could it be that after I obtain the body of chaos, I'm also a body of chaos in all timelines, regardless of time period? This statue must have been created by celestial Tai Xian, and this tomb space must have also been created by him. Perhaps he in the origin world is celestial Tai Xian. He said he waited for me for countless years, but it hasn't been long since I transmigrated to the origin world. Where did this countless years come from? Li Yu discovered that he had learned some information, but the mystery had only deepened. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a violent rumble came from outside. It was orderly and rhythmic, as if it were the footsteps of an army marching. Marching? Li Yu was startled as he recalled the countless terracotta soldiers outside. Li Yu hurriedly leaped out of the Grand Hall and stood on the high platform at the entrance of the Grand Hall. When he saw the countless terracotta soldiers outside the sleeping mausoleum, he suddenly realized that they had come alive. Countless terracotta soldiers lined up in neat rows and surrounded Li Yu with murderous intent. Kill! 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 Battle cries shook the heavens. The boundless army formation surged with monstrous fiendish aura as it charged over from all directions. So what if you have more people? Li Yu sneered. To the primal chaos, numbers are meaningless. With a clang, he unsheathed his sword. Li Yu raised a heaven and earth sword. A surge of heaven and earth chi surged, and the power to annihilate all things spread out. Die for me. With a slash of the sword, the heaven and earth chi swept out like a raging tide. Annihilate all things, destroy all things, and end all material existence. Boom! The earth-shattering chi of Xianhuang swept out and exploded with a loud bang. It was as if everything in this place was being annihilated. However, what's going on? Li Yu's face was filled with astonishment as he discovered that the firmament sword chi that could annihilate all things actually had no effect whatsoever. Chaos? The armor on these terracotta soldiers is actually formed from chaos? When he looked carefully, Li Yu noticed to his surprise that the armor worn by the myriad of terracotta soldiers was actually formed from chaos. Is this the work of Heavenly Emperor Taishian? The statue was created by him, and so was this mausoleum world. These terracotta soldiers must have been made by him. The celestial emperor of Taishuan's realm was one level higher than Li Yu's. He had already reached the realm of vaporizing chaos. The chi of heaven and earth that Li Yu used was only a power that evolved from chaos. It could not deal with chaos at all. Only chaos can deal with chaos. Every single one of these terracotta soldiers is formed from chaos. It's going to be very troublesome to deal with. Li Yu realized helplessly that he was actually going to fight against a myriad of terracotta soldiers. They're going to finish all the battles I've been fighting my entire life in one go. He raised the firmament sword, and a stream of chaos swirled out. The firmament sword in his hand instantly disintegrated into a ball of chaos. With a swipe of his hand, the chaotic firmament sword appeared again. The firmament sword that was made from the firmament chi of matter's origin was no longer useful in a battle at the level of chaos. Li Yu could only reforge the firmament sword into a chaos supreme treasure. After that, the Emperor Yu's bell and the majestic seal were also forged into chaos supreme treasures. Isn't it just a little more small monsters? I'll just take it as farming monsters. With a swipe of his hand, the Emperor Yu's bell appeared above his head and sprinkled a ray of chaos light that enveloped Li Yu's body. He grabbed the majestic seal with his left hand and the firmament sword with his right. Li Yu was fully armed. Kill! With a roar, Li Yu leaped into the air and charged toward the densely packed terracotta soldiers in front of him. Majestic seal, disorder of chaos. With a swipe of his left hand, the majestic seal flew out of his hand. The disorder of chaos, sublimated from the origin of order, unleashed a power that could annihilate all order and swept forward. Bam! 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 A series of explosions rang out, and the terracotta soldiers in front of him were instantly wiped out. Tens of thousands of terracotta soldiers were annihilated in a single blow and disappeared without a trace. Firmament sword, nothingness of chaos. A sword ray that could annihilate everything swept out and flattened another area. Even though the celestial arch of Taishuan's chaos power had turned into armor to protect these terracotta soldiers. Even though the celestial arch of Taishuan's chaos level was one level higher than Li Yu's. But the chaos power that was added to the terracotta soldiers was still not enough to fight against Li Yu. A diamond was very valuable, but no matter how valuable it was, it could not be compared to a huge mountain made of gold. Right now, Li Yu was like a golden mountain facing a diamond that was as small as sand. Clang! 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 The Emperor Yu bell above his head let out a continuous roar, as if it was being struck continuously. In fact, it was indeed so. Billions of terracotta soldiers besieged Li Yu together, and streams of chaos power poured down on Li Yu like a torrential downpour. The Emperor Yu Bel's chaos light curtain was also violently trembling under the continuous attacks. Even if I can kill 10,000 of them with one blow, how long will it take to cut them down like this? Li was very angry. I have always been the one to bully others with numbers, but now I'm surrounded. In this situation, what else could he do but cut his way through? I'll chop. I'll chop. I'll chop again. Swinging the hornet sword, Li Yu chopped at the terracotta soldiers. His hands were cramping, but the densely packed terracotta soldiers in front of him did not seem to show any signs of decreasing. Fortunately, I'm already a chaos body, so there's no such thing as running out of true essence and being exhausted to death. Otherwise, what a tragedy it would be. Exhaling gloomily, he swung his sword and continued to chop at the monsters. Son of Chaos, you actually destroyed one of my avatars. I'll teach you a lesson and make you remember. At this time, the voice of the heavenly emperor of Taishan suddenly rang out from the terracotta army. As soon as he finished speaking, a loud explosion shot up into the sky. Boom! Heaven and earth exploded, time and space collapsed, and matter was annihilated. The entire world of the mausoleum was suddenly annihilated in this loud explosion. First, the mausoleum was annihilated, then countless terracotta soldiers were annihilated, and then the entire world was annihilated. Chaos destruction. A ray of chaos destruction light violently erupted, and everything in the world of the mausoleum was swept away by this ray of chaos destruction light and turned into nothingness. Time and space collapsed. Matter was annihilated, and the only thing left in the world was a violent explosion of chaotic turbulence. Damn it! Li Yu hurriedly transformed into his chaos form and used all the chaos chi in his body to protect himself, not allowing himself to be killed by the chaos destruction light. However, he was inevitably swept into the chaotic turbulence, and he did not know which time and space node he was thrown to. Chapter 1286. When the mausoleum world fell into the great chaotic destruction, the outside world also underwent a huge change. In the void outside the Emperor Heaven of the origin world, at the tip of the green wall, the green palace, at the same time, a ray of primal chaos annihilation light burst out. Destruction. Annihilation. Annihilation. This annihilation light that could destroy time, space, matter, and order erupted from the palace at the tip of the spike, sweeping out. Time and space collapsed. Matter was annihilated. As long as this annihilation light swept past, all time and space, all planes, all worlds would turn into nothingness and completely disappear. The Emperor Heaven of the main world was the closest, so it naturally bore the brunt of the attack. As long as it swept past, the Emperor Heaven would vanish into thin air. What South Parting Island, what Southern Heaven Province, what Undying Mountain Immortal Court, they would all be annihilated by the primal chaos. Buzz. Just as this annihilation light swept out and was about to spread to the Emperor Heaven, the spike on the green wall faintly shook. An invisible wave of energy swept across the area. This annihilation light that could annihilate time and space suddenly and silently dissipated, as if it had never appeared. The statue disappeared, and so did the palace. But the spike was still there, and so was the green wall. Even more shocking was that after the palace was annihilated, the spike was still intact. It did not lose its tip because of the destruction of the palace and the statue. It was as if the statue and the palace were only external, superimposed on the spike, and not the spike itself. Li did not see this situation. If he had seen it, he would definitely know. The palace and the statue had been put up by the heavenly emperor of Taishan, so naturally they were not part of the spike and the green wall. Unfortunately, Li was not in the mood to care about this right now. Where is this? In front of him was an unfamiliar world. This world was in ruins. Mountains collapsed, the earth cracked, and ruins were everywhere. The earth was sprinkled with blood. and the world was filled with an endless aura of death. Li was very unfamiliar with this world. He had not come in contact with it at all. Which space-time is this? Or should I say, is this the time? Liu raised his eyes and looked beyond the void. The chaos I could see through the endless space and time, but it couldn't find any other planes outside of this world. He couldn't see his own immortal abode space, nor could he see the Emperor Heaven. He couldn't even find the other worlds that Liu had passed through. What is this place? Where have I been swept to by the chaotic turbulence? The Mausoleum world was annihilated by the celestial emperor of Taishuan's power of chaos. Time and space collapsed, and all matter was destroyed. All order had turned into chaos. Without order, time and space were in chaos. Past, present, future, front, back, left, right, up, down, everything was in a complete mess. Even with Liu's current realm, he couldn't figure out what was going on. This place should be a battlefield. Who exactly is fighting here? Liu glanced around this broken world filled with the aura of death. He couldn't go back in time and see the past and future of this world. This place seemed even stranger than the Mausoleum world. Since I can't go back in time, I can only ask the system. Since the system was the chaos proof of the Lord of Chaos, it should have some understanding of this place. System, where is this place? Liu asked the system with the intention of giving it a try. This is the Origin Pearl. The system quickly gave him an answer. The Origin Pearl? Liu was shocked. He suddenly recalled the profound Sky Emperor saying that he was the one who found Liu from the Origin Pearl. That means this is where I've been before? Why don't I have any impression of this place? What is the Origin Pearl? Why did this place become like this? Who is fighting who? Liu hurriedly asked the system. The core of Origin is the Origin Pearl. As for other questions, the system doesn't record them and can't answer. Fine. Liu helplessly shook his head. The core of Origin is the Origin Pearl. Isn't that the same as not saying anything? Since the system didn't have any information on this, he could only find the answer himself. Since the Origin Pearl was related to Liu's origin, Liu naturally had to carefully investigate it. Let's take a look around first and see if I can find anything. This world of the Origin Pearl was much more restrictive on power compared to the tomb space. Breaking through the void of space was out of the question. Liu tried a few times, but couldn't even tear through the void of space, so there was no way he could break through it. He could only obediently fly away. Putting the Emperor Yu's bell on top of his head, Liu rode the profound amber sword and flew into the sky, searching around this ruined world. As he flew, a ruined blood-red plane appeared in front of him. A bloody glow filled the sky. The entire sky and earth were dyed red by the crimson light. But in reality, there weren't any corpses lying around, nor were there any rivers of blood. In this ruined plain, in this blood-red world, there was only one corpse. A corpse dressed in silver armor, exuding a vast and boundless aura and divine might. That crimson light that illuminated the world was just the blood flowing out of this corpse. A celestial venerable, that is, the corpse of an immortal emperor, yet it still shows such a phenomenon. Liu pursed his lips and inwardly shook his head. In truth, only someone like Liu at the primal chaos realm would find an immortal emperor very ordinary. Back in the era of celestial Emperor Huang, the dark calamity that destroyed countless worlds was only a half-crippled immortal emperor. Liu had even encountered primal chaos realm existences here, so he naturally didn't find an immortal emperor very impressive. An immortal emperor died here. I wonder if I can find any information. This world of the Pearl of Origins was simply too unfamiliar. Liu had to find some information to understand this world. Pressing down on the streak of light, Liu landed next to the silver-armored immortal emperor to see if he could find anything. Traitor, kill him as a warning to others. A spear had pierced through the corpse's head and through its body, burying itself deep into the ground. A white cloth fluttered on the tip of the spear, upon which a line of crimson characters was written. Traitor? Is there a rebellion in this world? There was no signature on the white cloth, nor was there any name of any organization. Only a sentence without rhyme or reason. Liu didn't know where to start. I wonder where this silver-armored immortal emperor came from. That silver armor, that spear. When Liu stretched out his hand to touch the silver armor, he suddenly discovered that the silver armor and the spear were actually formed from the primordial chaos. The silver armor and spear were even stronger and more powerful than the armor worn by the terracotta soldiers in the mausoleum world. Who is this person's subordinate? Liu was shocked. The silver-armored immortal emperor's equipment was so luxurious that his master must be someone even more terrifying than the Taishian celestial emperor. Chapter 12:87. This is going to be troublesome. The silver armor was even stronger than the terracotta soldier's armor. This world of the Pearl of Origin was definitely the territory of a primal chaos supremacy who was stronger than the Taishian celestial emperor. Recalling that the Taishian celestial emperor had mentioned the key to the land of origin, Liu became even more vigilant. If the Taishian celestial emperor could seize the key, why couldn't others? At this moment, Liu had the urge to turn around and run. If this person really wants to attack me, it doesn't matter if I run or not. Time and space are meaningless to a primal chaos supremacy. After attaining the primal chaos body, Liu naturally knew how terrifying the primal chaos was. For existences below the primal chaos, it was the will of heaven that made them despair. Even though Liu was already at the first step of the primal chaos, there was still a clear gap between him and those at the second or third step. However, Liu already possessed the essence of the primal chaos. When primal chaos fought against primal chaos, only the most essential primal chaos would clash and be annihilated. Concepts like time and space that originated from the primal chaos were meaningless. Other energies and laws were also meaningless. So it doesn't matter if I run or not. Liu simply ignored it and reached out to remove the mask on the silver-armored immortal emperor's helmet. This is... The mask of the silver-armored immortal emperor was removed, revealing the face of a middle-aged man. Even though he had been dead for many years, his face was still vivid. Of course, this was not the point. The point was, Liu knew this person. The Mirage Immortal Emperor? The Mirage Immortal Emperor from the Origin World? Back in the Origin World's southern heaven outer sea, Liu had found a bronze mirror on Mirage Island, which had allowed him to discover traces of the Origin World celestial venerate. It was the Mirage Immortal Emperor that had allowed Liu to learn of his existence in the Origin World. Why is the Mirage Immortal Emperor here? Wasn't he swallowed by the Origin World's celestial venerate? The Mirage Immortal Emperor had hidden for countless years, but in the end, he was still unable to escape this calamity. He was swallowed by him in the Origin World, leaving behind only a pool of pus and blood. For a long time, Liu had been tricked by Heavenly Emperor Taishian. He had used that statue to make Liu believe that the him of the Origin World was Liu himself. Previously in the Mausoleum World, the profound sky Heavenly Emperor had already revealed the truth. The him of the main world wasn't Liu at all, but something created by Celestial Emperor Taishian. The he of the Origin World must be Heavenly Emperor Taishian. Does this mean that the celestial venerables of the Origin World who had turned into a pool of pus and blood were actually brought here by the Celestial Emperor of Taishian? No. Liu shook his head again. The armor of the Mirage Immortal Emperor was clearly stronger than the armor of the terracotta soldiers. There was an obvious difference in the way the armor was created. It was obvious that the armor was created by two different people. Or, the Mirage Immortal Emperor was originally a subordinate of the Profound Sky Heavenly Emperor. Because he betrayed the Profound Sky Heavenly Emperor, he was killed by the Profound Sky Heavenly Emperor. Looking up at this ruined world, Liu's mind was constantly thinking, as if he had sorted out his thoughts. Could this be the battlefield of the Profound Sky Heavenly Emperor and another Heavenly Emperor? The profound sky heavenly emperor had said that he had found Li Yu in the Pearl of Origin. So, this battle might be the one where the profound sky heavenly emperor had fought with another heavenly emperor when he came here to find Li Yu. This conclusion might be the truth. Li Yu leaped up and flew forward. He had to continue searching for more clues to help Li Yu discover the truth. Since he had come to the Pearl of Origin, Li Yu had no intention of leaving just like that. It was easy to leave, but it was impossible for Li Yu to return to the Pearl of Origin with his current realm. As he flew, there was only a ruined land in front of him. Li Yu didn't see any living creatures in this world filled with the aura of death. It was as if this was a ruined and dead world. There were no living creatures, but there were many dead things. Silver-armored corpses stood erect on the ruined land in front of him. There were tens of thousands of them. Just like the Mirage Immortal Emperor, these corpses had been pierced by a long spear and stood erect on the ruined land. This doesn't look like a battlefield, but an execution ground. Li Yu glanced at the corpses and found that there was a white cloth hanging on each of them. There was also a line of blood-red words written on it. "You traitor, kill them as a warning to others." Li Yu shook his head at the sight of the forest of corpses. So many people rebelled? What on earth happened here? After circling around the corpse forest, Li Yu couldn't find any more clues, nor did he discover anything else. So many heavenly emperors had been executed just like that. What a terrifying situation this was. Looking at such a casual execution, the heavenly emperors were like ordinary soldiers. Then, how terrifying was the original master of these heavenly emperors? I have been struggling for so many years, but I don't even have a single heavenly emperor under my command. In this place, heavenly emperors are like soldiers who are casually executed. Li Yu couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. An immortal emperor was not someone you could just casually find. They could even be called the strongest existence under the chaos. Li Yu himself had passed the level of heavenly emperor. He knew very well that it wasn't so easy to become an heavenly emperor. Even the Lord of Chaos couldn't casually create an heavenly emperor. What is the background of the force that casually executed heavenly emperors? Was it a force similar to the heavenly emperor of Taishan? There was actually such a powerful force? With a belly full of doubts, Li Yu passed through the forest of corpses and continued to search in this ruined world. 1 day, 2 days, an entire year passed. Li Yu's footsteps traversed this ruined world. Apart from this ruin, there are only these silver-armored corpses left. I didn't find anything at all. Li Yu didn't find any useful clues here, nor did he discover anything special. A broken battlefield? A place of execution? Has this place long been abandoned? Sighing helplessly, Li Yu shook his head. It seems that there are no clues to be found in this world of the Pearl of Origin. The heavenly emperor of Taishan had said that he'd captured Li Yu from the Pearl of Origin. However, in this abandoned Pearl of Origin's world, Li Yu couldn't find any traces of his existence in this world. Did the heavenly emperor of Taishan lie to me? Given Li Yu's current realm, if he really did come from here, he would be able to follow his own karma and find clues. Even the heavenly emperor of Taishan wouldn't be able to conceal such karma. However, after a year of searching, Li Yu hadn't found anything related to himself. I have no past life, nor will I have an afterlife. Apart from this life, I have no other past or future. I can't sense the Pearl of Origin at all. What is the reason for this? Li Yu suddenly felt that his identity as a son of chaos wasn't as simple as it seemed. Just where did I come from? I've been studying intensively for the past 2 days at the grand meeting of the dynasty. Chapter 1288. Sooner or later, these mysteries will all be revealed. Li Yu exhaled deeply, flicked his sleeves, and turned to leave. Since he couldn't find any clues, there was no need to waste time in this dilapidated Pearl of Origin. The Celestial Emperor of Taishan has already done it once, so he'll definitely do it again. My current realm is still 1 level below his, so I need to raise my cultivation as soon as possible. After transforming into chaos, The second step was transforming into chaos, and the third step was divinizing chaos. Only after completing these 3 steps could one become complete chaos. Liu was still 2 steps away, so he naturally had to focus on his own cultivation. System: return to the immortal residence. Liu couldn't return with his own power in this place, so he had to rely on the system. Planar teleportation activated. With a flash of light, Liu's figure vanished, leaving this dilapidated world of the Pearl of Origin. Rumble. The moment Liu left, the void of the Pearl of Origin exploded with a violent rumble. A majestic middle-aged man wearing a golden robe and an emperor's crown stepped out of the void. The son of chaos really has been here. The golden-robed man glanced at the world of the Pearl of Origin and frowned. Just left? The power of the proof of chaos? Even if you escape into the lost plane, you can't escape from this old man. He waved his hand and tore a giant rift in the void. The golden-robed man stepped out and chased after Liu. Rumble. Another earth-shattering rumble rang out, shattering the void and collapsing space-time. A green vine that looked like it was carved from jade shattered the endless void and lashed at the golden-robed man. Lord of the clear skies. You. The golden-robed elder roared in shock and fury, hurriedly releasing a 33-story golden pagoda that exploded with endless light to block the vine's attack. Rumble. With an unimaginably loud bang, the entire world of the Pearl of Origin trembled violently. The earth cracked and the sky cracked. With a single strike, the already dilapidated land became even more dilapidated. If not for the fact that the world of the Bead of Origins was very special, it would have long been annihilated by this strike. Her Highness has given the order. All the heavenly emperors of the 9 heavens realm were not allowed to leave the realm with their true bodies. Tai Xian, you have crossed the line. A cold voice came from the green vines. If you know what's good for you, then immediately scram back to your grand, profound heaven. Otherwise, don't blame me for being too ruthless. Empress? She's awake? The celestial emperor of Taishuan's expression changed. He took a deep breath and nodded at the vine. Since this is your order, Taishian will obey. It's just that I'm doing this for everyone's sake. The sooner this matter was resolved, the sooner everyone would be able to transcend. What's wrong with that? Her Highness has her own considerations regarding this matter. All you need to do is comply. If you dare to play any tricks again, don't say that I didn't warn you. Do you want to experience Her Majesty's methods? Another sneer came from a vine. Everyone wants to enter the land of origin. However, how to enter and when to enter all have to listen to Her Majesty. If you don't, have you forgotten what happened to that dragon? Taishian understands. The corner of the celestial emperor of Taishuan's mouth twitched. He hurriedly bowed and turned to leave. Son of Chaos? The key to enter the origin? Things aren't that simple. Taishian, you'd better not play any tricks, or else your end will be very miserable. A human face appeared on the vine. It looked up at the world of the Pearl of Origin and sighed. Back then, when Old Dragon rebelled, Her Majesty would rather destroy this Pearl of Origin and kill him to the last man. Don't forget Her Majesty's methods. The vine flashed and disappeared in an instant. Liu naturally didn't know that such a scene had happened in the Pearl of Origin after he left. I'm not afraid of being targeted by the Celestial Emperor of Taishian, but looking up at the space of the immortal estate, Liu's face grew worried when he saw the joyful faces of Sai and the others. Sai and the others weren't weak. However, they had no power to resist the Celestial Emperor of Taishian, who was at the second step of the chaos. At this moment, Liu was very worried about the safety of his lair. System, is there any way to hide the immortal estate space from those at the second step of the chaos? The system was a product of the third step of the chaos. It was the evidence of chaos created by the Lord of Chaos and could be said to be the manifestation of his will. It was normal for Liu to ask the evidence of chaos for help if he couldn't handle it himself. The immortal estate space was created by the system. As long as the user doesn't actively reveal it, the space won't be detected by those below the Lord of Chaos. The systems answered delightedly you. The immortal estate space, created by the evidence of chaos, was very likely to exist within the evidence of chaos. It wasn't strange that those below the Lord of Chaos couldn't detect the existence of the immortal estate space. Tsai, come here. Liu called out to Tsai and the others and called them to his side. Greetings, your majesty. The girls came in front of Liu and bowed. I have a great enemy, although I'm not afraid of him. However, you're no match for him. For your safety, you can only stay in the immortal estate for this period of time and are not allowed to go out. With a wave of his hand, Liu directly sealed off the immortal estate space and prohibited the girls from leaving the immortal estate at will. Your Majesty, Tsai, and the others looked at Liu with worried faces. Since the immortal estate space was sealed, this great enemy must be very powerful. Would His Majesty be in any danger? Don't worry, he can't do anything to me. Even if Liu's strength was a notch lower than the Celestial Emperor of Taixien, with the system in hand, it wouldn't be so easy for the Celestial Emperor of Taixien to kill Liu. Even if he couldn't beat him, he could always run away. You can rest assured and cultivate in the immortal estate. Liu ordered and waved his hand to send the girls out. Now, I have to think about how to improve my cultivation as soon as possible. The next step of transforming into chaos was vaporizing chaos. His qi refinement cultivation would go from Xianhuang qi and Yin-yang qi to chaos qi in reverse. There's a world that should be of some help to me on the path of vaporizing chaos. Pangu created the heavens and Nuwa created man. Everything in that world originated from chaos. Although Liu wasn't sure if this Pangu was stronger than the Pangu he had seen before. He didn't know how powerful that saint's realm was. But Pangu was born in chaos. Everything in that world originated from Pangu and also from chaos. Through a series of research and experiments, he should be able to summarize a path of vaporizing chaos. Then, primordial chaos, I'm coming. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.